is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated.
Oh, there was a team that got whooped.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
Will we even hear that this week? I don't think so. You're watching Total Football Talk. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Total Football Talk. That's right, that hard-hitting, grinding action the way you like it. That's how we roll. I'm one half of this show, one half of the co-host of this program, Cole Johnson, a.k.a. the Mad Scientist and the EP of all EPs. And I'm not alone. As you can see, I am joined by the other co-host of this program. You may know him as Mr. Commander's Grind Report. You may know him as Mr. In or Out Sports Debate. You may know him as Mr. D. Will in the Evening. He is my man, D. Willie, a.k.a. Drew Willingham. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, brother. Glad to be here for another edition, episode 55. We are live yet again.
That's right. That's right. Episode 55 is on the way. Ladies and gentlemen, we are feeling good. Wonderful action this week. Let's get this started. Opening drive, shall we?
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready?
Now, since we air our shows before Monday Night Football, we will touch on last Monday's game right now. The New York Jets, they opened up on the road. They went to Santa Clara to play the NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. 32-19 was the final score. It wasn't even close. And, well, here's a tidbit for you. That's the first time we've ever had a score in NFL that was 32-19, a final score that was 32-19. Well, we all know that Christian McCaffrey did not get a chance to play, and unfortunately now he's on IR. But Brock Purdy, decent game. 19-29, 231 yards, a carry and 11 yards on the ground. Now I can go on with Demetrius Flanagan fouls, picking off Aaron Rodgers once, and Jake Moody having 6 field goals on 6 tries. Wonderful opportunity in cashing in for him. But of course, the star of the show was Jordan Mason, 28 carries, 147 yards, and a touchdown. He also had a reception for 5 yards. Now, as for the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, 13-21, 167 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. I thought he was that bad, man. He also had a carry for a -1 yard. But Alan Lazard, he had a pretty good game. 6 receptions, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. But that Jets defense was absolutely atrocious. Your thoughts on last Monday night's game, sir?
Overall, I didn't really think the defense from either side was really impressive because the 49ers didn't really do but so much to really stand out. It was more so an underwhelming performance by the actual offense of the Jets. A lot of that could be attributed to the fact that there's like literally next to no chemistry because of how much time Aaron Rodgers was out for last year because he was, hurt 4 plays in and then they had a dumpster fire of a season after that. So looking at how all that transpired last year, considering the fact of how much time they had him during the offseason because he wasn't really at training camp because he was off doing a bunch of stuff and not really being with the team. It goes to show that that time that is spent with your team at training camp is necessary for chemistry and overall team building because we're seeing it in the numbers, especially in this first game of the season.
Yeah, I think, and we will of course touch on their game yesterday. Your thoughts actually bear a whole lot of fruit because I think those chemistries issues are still plaguing this team, especially on offense. Playmaker, our brother in broadcasting, how you doing? He of course is part of the morning shift. Also, he's also part of Monarchs of Wrestling. You'll see him later on today, 6:30 Eastern, 5:30. That's on the PM side, Central. He says, "Good morning, TFT bros. I'm happy you guys were able to enjoy the weekend. Unlike someone in the state of Florida, that would be him. Begins digging football graves. Well, one, my apologies to your University of Florida team, sir. And again, we'll touch on your Rams too. So I feel for you. But yes, the 49ers, they started off well. And I agree with you. The 49ers defense was pedestrian at best. Their offense was basically sparked by Jordan Mason. It looked like they did not miss Christian McCaffrey. We'll touch on that when we touch on their game that they played yesterday as well. But on to Thursday. Oh, boy. Well, the Bills match up against the Dolphins yet again. The Bills beat the Dolphins yet again. If I'm not mistaken, this is their 12th win in their last 13 games. 31-10 was the final score. The game wasn't even that close, and the game wasn't even that entertaining because I went to sleep probably right before second half kickoff. Josh Allen, pedestrian numbers, but actually I like this considering that they were productive enough. 13 of 19, 139 yards, a touchdown, 2 carries for 2 yards, which I had to do a double take with that number. James Cook, although he was the action of the offense, you look at the stats, it wasn't all that impressive. Just being honest, 11 carries, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns, a reception, 17 yards, and a third touchdown, 1 receiving. Jamarcus Ingram, well, I'll touch on him in a second. Christian Benford, he ended up with a pick. Jamarcus Ingram, he had 2 INTs. His second one went for 31 yards for a pick 6, and that pretty much sealed the deal. The Dolphins offense had 212 passing yards. Devon Achane, he would have been the main talk of the town for the Dolphins, 22 carries, 96 yards, 69 yards, and a receiving touchdown. But the talk of this game, Tua Tagovailoa, 17-25, 145 yards, a touchdown, and 3 INTs. 2 carries for 17 yards. That second carry that went for 11 yards is the focus. He scrambled, got a first down, barreled not hard, but hard enough into the chest of one Damar Hamlin, and Mr. Tagovailoa ended up concussed yet again. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
Before we get to the big part of this where Tua, went down, Tua was definitely playing like he was mentally inept before he even got hurt. And you look at his decision making, like he was not like in his right mind, it seemed like, because before everything happened, he threw 3 interceptions. Right. And he was throwing it into double and triple coverage, wasn't really making his reads. He wasn't, making the right decisions out there in the field before he had that one scramble, where he's getting extra yards. And you see other quarterbacks like during week 2, we see, CJ Stroud, we see Jaden Daniels, we see these young quarterbacks who were scrambling around trying to get extra yards to move the chains, but they're being smart with their body and sliding and getting down when they need to. Tua is making a decision way too late. Not only that, but he's going head first. And, when you look at that, and then you look at the plays that he was making throughout the game as well, and some of the decisions and throwing into some of the windows that he was, I'm not surprised looking at the end result at this play that happened with him where he's getting hurt because he's, going head first. And ironically, it happened against DeMar Hamlin. And we already know about his situation. Like that's what's ironic about this situation right here. But when it comes to Tua, he, regardless if he steps back on the field or not, we've talked about the fact of his decision making out there on the field in the moment. And it's not just when he's running, it's when he's in the pocket and standing tall and making these passes, because there is no excuse for the rushing play that he had where he got himself hurt again. But the 3 interceptions, that's just poor decision making right there. You look at the time of possession that the Miami Dolphins had this ball for. They had it for 36 minutes and 19 seconds and could only muster up 10 points. Yet the Bills had the ball for only 23 minutes and 41 seconds, and they were able to put up 31 points. So, you can break down the numbers, break down the stats, but I chalk this up with the Dolphins and their main quarterback as poor decision-making is what led to this loss right here.
I could not express that any better. 100%. And you're almost lending credence to the understanding of, well, maybe those concussions that Tua suffered before Thursday is playing a part as to how he is playing with his decision making. I can't disagree with that. I could try to argue against it. I can't disagree with it because, definitely 2 of those 3 interceptions, I'm like, what were you looking at? The third was a good defensive play, but 2 of those 3 of those interceptions, I was like, come on, man. You've been playing this position a lot longer than what you're showing. I'm like, man, you're making Pop Warner mistakes in the pocket. And that shouldn't be the case. But but prayers out to you, Tua. And well, prayers to of course the Dolphins fan. They unfortunately they go to 1-1. Well, wow. That's horrible. The Bills, on the other hand, they will go up to 2-0. And they await, I think they play Monday night, actually, this next week. Families in town. Victor Locke, VLOCK 83, or the man that we call
Victor.
He says, good morning to the TFT tribe. I bow to the big game hunter of dumpster pelicans worldwide, Sensei Drew Willingham, and the EP of EPs, Cole Johnson. Thank you, sir. Oh, and he says, well, I'll get to Tua. He says, Tua's starting to scare me. He plays with too much guts and not enough brains. Pun not intended. And both you and Drew make valid points. Valid points.
I appreciate that. Yeah, you can only get your eggs scrambled but so much. And this is the 3rd major concussion he's had since he came out of college, and he's only 25 years old. So, and we know about the history of what happened in 2022. It was nice to see him fully healthy last year, but it's wild how watching him play in 2 games this year, he's reverted back to 2022 to him. And it's like, I wonder what his offseason regimen was, because it's definitely not what it was during the 2023 offseason.
Yeah, that's a good point too. It's just horrible. And 3 major concussions, and the other one that is considered minor. To me, I consider it major because it led to the first major one, which is 4 days after what he suffered against the same team in the same stadium. Oh, Victor says, now if you'll excuse me, I'll report to the ground for the usual kicking. Yes, you and this gentleman too.
Drew Willingham.
In this case,
I'm sorry. My bad. Doggone it. Oh, you and this man has to report to the usual kicking.
Delete! 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 Delete!
I think now you're starting to see why during the green room discussion I was like, we need to separate the two.
Yeah. And
It's a lot of
glad I
buttons
did,
to
and
click.
glad you did, and I still clicked the wrong button. But yeah, we will talk further on TAM when we talk about the Cowboys.
Yes.
Now to the Sunday outfits, shall we?
We can talk about the Jets again.
That's right. Now, we did talk about the Jets. They played Monday night. They also played yesterday afternoon. They were in Nashville. They played against the Titans, and they beat them 24-17. That game was mighty ugly, and I watched all of it. Aaron Rodgers was actually efficient. Not impressive, but efficient. 18-20, 176 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had a yard on 2 carries. Breece Hall, he was productive. 14 carries and 62 yards on the ground, 7 receptions for 52 yards and a touchdown in the air. Beautiful touchdown reception he had, which had the Jets go up 17-10. Looked like a wide receiver. Brandon Echols, he picked off Will Levis. Will McDonald IV was active, putting Will Levis down on the turf 3 times, and he had 3 of the Jets' 4 sacks. Tony Pollard on the Titans end, 17 carries, 62 yards, 5 receptions, 40 yards. Calvin Ridley, 4 receptions, 77 yards and a touchdown. 1 carry on an end around for 10 yards and an impressive touchdown there. But to me, the story of this game was Will Levis, 19 of 28, 192 yards, a touchdown and interception, 4 carries for 38 yards and a lost fumble. And in this game, lost fumble, and then the next time he was on the field, the very next play, he threw his interception. And to me, that was the game. Your thoughts on the Jets and the Titans?
You know, this is like we were talking about with the last Jets game. You know, with Aaron Rodgers not playing a training camp in preseason, these first few games are going to feel like how they would be if he was playing in those preseason games. It's going to take him time to get acclimated and adjusted. Let's not forget the fact that the man's 40 years old, trying to come back from a pretty serious injury, and he's had that extra time off. So I'm not surprised he's throwing for less than 200 yards. You know, what I will say when it comes to the Titans, they did their job in staying relatively close within this game. You know, Will Levis is definitely stepping up into his role as the quarterback for the team, but also you got to look at what Calvin Ridley, you know, is doing over there as an acquisition for them as wide receiver. Definitely, you know, making a mark over there as he had 2 touchdown receptions to help keep the Titans in this game. You know, the Jets definitely stepped it up in some ways defensively is in comparison to what they were playing against with the 49ers, but they were also playing a much better team in week 1 in comparison to week 2. Breece Hall's numbers do concern me a little bit when it comes to on the ground, but I think over time he'll get a little bit better with that as well. But you know, we can't get so excited if you're a supporter of the Jets out there. You cannot get so excited here because of the caliber team that which you were playing with the Titans. They're a better team. Both teams are better than what they were in 2023. But I think by the time we get to week 6 or 7, we can really start giving a true assessment on the Jets, because it's going to take them until about weeks 3 to 4 to 5 to really start unraveling what they have on their roster, because the chemistry will start building in that time, and we'll start to see if Aaron Rodgers can turn things around, because we're going to need to see an Aaron Rodgers that can throw between 225 to 250 passing yards per game consistently to keep this offense in it, because they cannot, even though we do preach the running game, this team is not built to lean on the run heavily. Even though Breece Hall is great, they have a 1 punch, but they don't really have a 1-2 punch. So with Garrett Wilson and the other, you know, weapons that you have over there at wide receiver, you got talent. This team is built on their offensive side on a passing style of offense. So they're going to have to showcase that, and they're going to have to start getting the ball rolling with that, because Aaron Rodgers won't be able to consistently have 150, 175 yards per game, and they pull out these wins because they're barely getting enough points to win against teams that are mediocre, like the Tennessee Titans.
Beautifully elocuted. And I think that's the issue that I'm seeing so far with the Jets. That offense runs uneven, and you're seeing Rodgers playing extremely careful. When have we ever seen Aaron Rodgers play? We've seen him play smart. We've never seen him play careful. It's almost as if the field to him is like a china shop, and if he feels he goes goes to the right too far, to the left too far, behind too far, in front too far, he's going to break something. And the numbers are reflected, and I agree with you. They are built for explosion. I mean, on one side you have Garrett Wilson, the other side you have Alan Lazard. So they're built to stretch you down the field, to hit you with slants and shallows, and then hit you deep one of those throws. But we have not seen much of that because of, like you said, the uneven play and the chemistry not being there, because this is really yesterday was the second full game that the Jets have played with Aaron Rodgers and them. Yeah, he had 2 preseason outfits, not this past season, but the season before, where it was like maybe a drive one game and a quarter another. You can't build too much chemistry with that and just practice. But yeah, I agree with you, sir. Ike Dawson, what's up? It's great to see you, my man. I hope everything's good with you in your world.
Good job, Ike.
Victor, he says, it's weird seeing quarterbacks trying to lay blocks on the D line. I've seen Justin Fields do the same as Tua. Yeah. And I think you'll be seeing more. I always get a kick out of when I see quarterbacks throw blocks. And I harken back to Tom Brady when he would try to throw blocks. And it's like, look at him try to be bold, and then he made the business decision once he had to actually try to throw the block. I find it hilarious.
At least TB12 didn't have to try as hard to throw a block as he has to try to be an announcer.
Oh, no. When we talk about the Saints Cowboys, Playmaker says, yeah, he watched the whole game with that evil scientist smile talking about me because Will Levis struck again. Dude, you are one of those plays, one of those drives. You are deep within Jets territory. 3rd down. All you need to do is just hold on to the ball to kick a field goal. What does this brain devoid fool do? He scrambles out the pocket. He sees, I think it was Tony Pollard, and he decides to lateral it. Yes, as a fan, I beamed wide because I love seeing it. But as an analyst, I'm like, come on, Will, you know better than this. Now, the INT, that was actually a really good play on the Jets defense, but that to me was just inexplicable and inexcusable. I'm like, come on, Will, you got to do better than that, man. Dante, it's good to see you, man. What's up? I hope you gearing up for tonight as your Eagles properly have a home game. I know they officially was the home team in Brazil, but they have their home opener tonight on Monday Night Football against Falcons. I hope that you are doing well. I hope you're enjoying what you've seen thus far in their victory against the Packers in Brazil. Ryan McCarthy, one half of, at least for the moment, TFT Extra. Wonderful CFL analysis, by the way, sir. He says, "What's up, Drew and Cole? Are they still them boys?"
No, they're not. We would definitely touch up more on that in a little bit, and definitely gonna miss Ryan this Friday. I'm gonna be rocking solo because he's gonna be out of town, so he'll be back next week for TFT Extra. But I will be flying the ship solo unless anybody wants to volunteer to talk CFL.
Oh, look at that! I'm telling you, I'm surrounded by talent. I'm surrounded by talent. I hope you enjoy yourself, sir. You saw Playmaker says, "Well, what the heck were you doing?" Yes, that's really how I was. Really, Ryan says, "Look, the Jets played ugly, but they don't count style points as a win. Of course they don't. It doesn't matter as long as you get the W. And what's better than one threat of running back? Two threats of running back. Yeah. And look, I've heard the same thing about my Texans. They're like, oh, well, you all look horrible. I don't care. What was the final score? I don't care how pretty or ugly the game looked. Did they score 1 point more than the opponent? They did. I'm good. We'll fix whatever's the problem in the week leading up to the next game. But I saw a W. That's what I'm celebrating, and I'm with you, Ryan. You should, as a Jets fan, celebrate that W in Tennessee, no matter how ugly it looked. Victor says, Espresso McCoffee, does your Villery know no bounds? I understand mutually assured destruction, but come on. the shot that he threw was not to Victor, but it was to the moronic Republic of Cowboys Nation. And he says a good morning to him. Victor says, it's good to see you too, Ryan. I miss your money, and I enjoy North Twin Ditches Acquired.
Well, you should tune in on Fridays because he still talks to the Football Talk Extra on Fridays.
Just
Vic Alive, you are subscribed to Sertoba Media and Comey Media, and they play on both channels on Fridays around 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern time.
Mm-hmm. And he says the moronic Republic will not be denied. They won't be denied when we get to them. Dante says, look, I think Rodgers is unsure if he's healthy. I think he's testing that Achilles too. And I still feel as though he's not feeling as though he could bear all the weight he can on it. So it's early and the team's in September. So come December, maybe you might have a better outlook on what this team is, unless you're Dallas. Poor Dante. Subscribe now and never miss out on new content on Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated. And you will not be disappointed no matter what you view on both channels. Oh, and Vinny says, look, I checked out the show on Friday. Your show makes me wish CFL was on TV. Yeah. Thank you for that, sir. On to the next.
I muted myself. So, Vic a lot, I appreciate the shout out for one. And two, if you have cable, which nowadays not a lot of people do, but if you do, it is on TSN. So there's ways, and CBS Sportsnet. That's how you can watch CFL. But yes, I wish it was on more primetime TV, like you had said, because when you look at what McCoffee has to say, especially about the CFL, he helps me help you, get you hype about it.
Oh, man. I mean, the knowledge, and seriously, the knowledge that he has about the league, it is impressive. It really is. Now to the Twin Cities, not too far from the Great White North. The Vikings hosted the 49ers, and for the 8th consecutive time this matchup happened in the Twin Cities, the Vikings beat the 49ers. This time, 23-17 was the final score. Sam Darnold looking like the number 3 pick from when he was drafted. Overall, 17-26, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. He also had 5 carries for 32 yards. Ty Chandler, not too many carries, but he did well for the carries that he had. 10 carries, 82 yards. And that 82 yards was part of a 146-yard rushing attack. Of course, you have Jettas or Justin Jefferson. He had 4 receptions, 133 yards, and a wonderful 97-yard touchdown reception. On defense, Pat Jones II gave you 2 of the Vikings' 6 sacks on the day. Josh Metellus ended up with a pick. Real Richard for the Vikings, 3 field goals on 3 attempts. And for the 49ers, Brock Purdy, when I see 300 yards by his side with the passing, I know, and I am anticipating that game. It's up in and. And Sunday was of no exception. 20-36, 319 yards, a touchdown, a pick, 2 carries of 12 yards, and I'm sorry, for those who don't know what that means, a lost fumble. Deebo Samuel, 8 receptions, 110 yards, 2 carries for minus 10 yards, and no, that is not a misnomer. Minus 10, negative 10. Yeah, poor fella. Nick Bosa, wonderful effort, 2 sacks. The 49ers defense got 4 sacks. Fred Warner ended up having 9 tackles, a sack and an interception. But the wonderful performance from Jordan Mason got wasted. 20 carries, 100 yards, a touchdown, a reception, 4 yards. Your thoughts on the 49ers Vikings matchup?
I think Kirk Cousins is eventually going to regret leaving the Minnesota Vikings and going to the Falcons because Sam Darnold is looking like an MVP caliber quarterback. And this is not Sam Darnold. This is the team that's helping him look this way. So, yes, the 49ers probably hurt themselves when they lost the fumble. But there is an overall really well-constructed team with the Minnesota Vikings that their fronts, their offensive front and their defensive front are playing pretty well. You got to look at what they were able to do to this 49ers offense, the pressure that they were putting on them, only holding them to 17 points when you look at what they had done the previous Monday against the New York Jets. So they definitely played against 2 totally different teams between the Jets in week 1 and the Vikings in week 2. And the Vikings definitely are proven to you that you don't have to have a big money quarterback in order to run a team. And Sam Darnold is the second option, because they don't even have their first option, who's out for the year with an injury. So I feel like with this year that he's going to put tape in for the Minnesota Vikings, he's going to get a pretty good contract. The question is going to be is if he's going to come back to Minnesota next year or not. But so far, so good for the Minnesota Vikings through 2 weeks when you look at them. And when you look at the 49ers, there are a lot of question marks because if a team with the defense like the Minnesota Vikings are holding you to 17 points and you are a perennial Super Bowl favorite, if you ask certain people out here who like to talk about certain teams, but when you look at this too, the 49ers are also doing well because their running back, their second string running back, Jordan Mason, is putting up the numbers of what he's doing. I think they also gives a lot of credit to the offensive line for the protection that they're giving him and the holes that he's got to run through, but also for the caliber talent that they have recruited for this team, because when you can rely on a backup running back to put up numbers like this, just like the backup in Minnesota for the quarterback is putting up numbers like that, it is more on the testament for the entirety of that offense than it is for that one particular position.
Agreed. And of course, the pick that Drew was mentioning is JJ McCarthy. He's out for the year. That was the one that the head coach Kevin O'Connell wanted to groom into being the next franchise quarterback, but looks like he has to do it holding a clipboard at the moment. And Sam Darnold's cooking, and that's a really good point, because the last time they had this situation, you had Case Keenum, who brought them to an NFC championship game, and then the very next offseason, gone he went. In signs Kirk Cousins. That's right, Mr. Chew changed himself. 49ers go to 1-1. The Vikings improved to 2-0. Did we see that on our bingo cards, ladies and gentlemen? The answer to that is no. Well, we stay in the Midwest. We go a little bit east to Detroit, or the Motor City, where the Lions, they host the Buccaneers in a rematch of the divisional round game they played. But the outcome was different. The Buccaneers beat the Lions 20-16, powered by Baker Mayfield, or the man formerly known as Bunker Stayfield. A decent, but an almost mistake-free, not quite, performance. 12-19 on 85 yards, a touchdown. He did throw a pick. 5 carries and 34 yards with a touchdown on the ground. Now, the ground game was just absent in this whole game from both sides, but Chris Godwin got busy in the air. 7 receptions, 117 yards and a touchdown. Jared Goff, because the ground game was until the end, 34 of 55, 307 yards, 2 INTs, along with 2 carries of 5 yards. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs, he got you some on the ground. 13 carries, 84 yards, 7 receptions, and 22 yards for the air. Amon-Ra St. Brown, who did a disappearing act last Sunday night, I should say. yesterday afternoon, 11 receptions and 119 yards. Aiden Hutchinson got busy. Had 4.5 of the Lions' 5 sacks. I feel bad for that performance being wasted. Brian Branch, he had 6 tackles and a pick. And Jake Bates, that's right, the UFL's own, now NFL's own, Jake Bates, 3 field goals on 3 attempts. Your thoughts on this sort of a defensive stand between the Buccaneers and the Lions?
There's no excuse for the Lions to not walk away with this victory here. When you look at how close this game was, and especially with the type of numbers that Baker Mayfield put up in this game, I mean, they were not impressive at all. I don't want to say I like what you said about absent, but as far as the run game, but it seems more along the lines of the Lions abandoned the running game, because you look at their running backs' numbers. He had 13 carries for 84 yards. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs did his job. He just didn't get enough touches. I mean, 13 carries for 84 yards isn't bad, but yet you had your quarterback pass 55 times in the game. Had you taken 10 of those away from him and given them, the rushing plays to your running back, he would have had well over 100 yards. You would have established enough of a run and a balanced load to where you could have moved the chains more, and you would have easily made up for those 4 points that you lost by, and could have easily won this game by 3. You shouldn't have to rely on last-minute comebacks when you're not balancing your load out well enough. So I attribute this loss more along the lines of the game plan, that they didn't well establish the run early on, and they relied on their arm way too late, to where you got Jared Goff throwing way too many incompletions towards the overall game, rather than having a well-balanced attack. So their game plan for the Lions is what screwed them up in this game.
I 100% agree, and I'll add along with this as well. They're having the same issues as 49ers are. No red zone efficiency. It's horrible. It is absolutely atrocious how they get to the red zone and either they settle for field goals or they get no points at all. And if they were to, in one of those trips, they didn't punch it in for the touchdown, get that touchdown, like you said, this would be a Lions victory instead of a Lions loss. But because of that, that might be a costly L. We will see. Might play itself out come January. But they're 1-0. They're 1-1. The Buccaneers are 2-0, but they're not alone atop the NFC South. We'll touch on that a little later. Now, staying in the Midwest, but going a little west, going to Wisconsin, shall we, on the frozen, not so frozen since it's in the middle of September, tundra of Lambeau Field. The Green Bay Packers, they have their home opener against the Colts. Of course, the Packers were without Jordan Love. No Jordan Love, no problem. The Packers beat the Colts 16-10. Malik Willis, 12 of 14, 122 yards, a touchdown, 6 carries, and 41 yards on the ground. Josh Jacobs, 32 carries, 151 yards. He had a lost fumble, but that's what I want to see from him, Packers. Yes. Oh, and the Packers had 58 carries for 261 yards. That 58 carries, the most in an NFL game in 46 years. Proud of you, Packers offense. 261 yards on the ground. The Packers defense not be outdone. Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, Eric Wilson each had a pick, 3 INTs off of the arm of Anthony Richardson. Oh, and not to be outdone with the special teams, Braden Arvidson, 3 field goals and 4 attempts. Looks like they may have found their kicker. The aforementioned Anthony Richardson, 17 of 34, 204 yards, 1 touchdown, and those 3 picks I mentioned. 4 carries on the ground for 37 yards, so he really didn't run all this much, which that's surprising. But they unfortunately stopped Jonathan Taylor. I don't mean the Packers stopped him, but I think they stopped the game plan for him to affect the game further. 12 carries, 103 yards. Your thoughts on the Packers' 16-10 victory over the Colts?
Well, it wouldn't have been as such as had Anthony Richardson done a better job protecting the ball, because you hit those 3 interceptions, just like we were talking about another team earlier with the interceptions they had. The turnovers cost them in this game. What was good for Malik Willis is he didn't turn the ball over,
Right.
but his numbers were definitely underwhelming considering what a starting quarterback or even a QB2 would be putting up, which is why they're not missing him in Tennessee, and they would have had an even worse result if he was starting at quarterback yesterday for the Titans rather than Will Levis, or if they would have had the old Ryan Tannehill. So they made the good choice there. The Packers, however, they're not going to get by for too long with this type of production out of him. And if it wasn't for their running back putting up the numbers that he did on the day with the acquisition of Josh Jacobs, they would not have won this game. So the turnovers on the one side with Richardson, along with the running attack by the Packers, balanced out enough for them to get this win, but barely. And they definitely need to look at their mistakes from this game as well to realize that they're going to need to get more production out of Malik Willis for the next month if he's going to be really the quarterback until we see Jordan Love come back.
Yeah, the prognosis for Love to be out is supposedly 4 to 6 weeks, make it 3 to 5 now, since he's now been out a week. Yeah, if this is what he's going to be putting up for numbers, especially in the passing game, it may be a long year for the Packers. I agree, but they improved to 1-1. The Colts, they're 0-2. Now let's go down south, shall we, to Charlotte, where this better explains the Panthers and the game they played Sunday. In Bank of America Stadium, they hosted in their home opener the Los Angeles Chargers. I want them to move back to San Diego, but I digress. The Chargers beat down and beat up the Panthers 26-3. Justin Herbert, pedestrian numbers: 14 of 20, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick, 6 carries for 18 yards on the ground. J.K. Dobbins, the man of this game for sure: 17 carries, 131 yards, and a touchdown. I think he had a reception for nothing. The Chargers offense, along with their 131 yards, Dobbins gained on the ground, 219 rushing yards is what they got as a team. Now, defensively, Elijah Molden ended up with a pick of Bryce Young. 18 of 26, 84 yards, and an INT, with a carry and 6 yards on the ground. Oh, but there was something good. The INT that I mentioned for Justin Herbert, J.C. Horn was the recipient of that pick. Your thoughts on the 26-3 beatdown of the Panthers given by the Chargers? The beatdown so thorough that even when my brother's lips moving, he's apoplectic and can't be heard.
Those human turnstiles, we've talked about it so many times.
Man.
For the Panthers, provide absolutely no protection. We were talking about how bad Malik Willis' stats were. You look at how your starting quarterback, this is your starting quarterback, Bryce Young, only putting up 84 yards in a game. It all is attributed to how terrible that offensive line and just that overall team is. This team has no shot and could potentially be the first 0-17 team that we have ever had in the NFL. It's very, very close. It could happen, just like the kid in the Angels in the outfield said back in the 90s. So looking at that and how terrible this game was and how terrible this team has played, not just the first 2 games of this season, but going back the past couple seasons, I have no hope for this Panthers team. And until otherwise, I'm going to go with they're going to go 0-17 this season.
Yeah, I have no hope for them either. They go down to 0-2, which is not surprising. The Chargers, they go up to 2-0. Victor says, I was about to say it was bowling shoe ugly, but dumpster firework as well. Well, the sensei beat all of us to it because it was a bowling shoe ugly type of game. Goodness gracious. Now, a good game a game that we did not think was going to be good, but it turned out to be good, actually. The Patriots in their home opener They hosted the Seahawks. It went to overtime. The Patriots held the lead, not in overtime, but they held the lead in the regulation. But the Seahawks fought back, got in overtime, and they beat the Patriots 23-20. Geno Smith, 33 of 44, 327 yards on the touchdown. He also had 5 carries for 8 yards. DK Metcalf, 10 receptions, 129 yards, and a really good touchdown reception. Jackson Smith-Njigba, which I never thought I was going to see this name ever again, from Ohio State, but he chipped in with 12 receptions for 117 yards as well. Defensively, Leonard Williams gave you a sack and a half. And on the special teams end, Jason Myers, he gave you 3 field goals and 3 attempts. On the Patriots, you have Jacoby Brissett, 15-27, 149 yards, a touchdown, 2 carries for 6 yards. They are praying that Drake May can give them more than this. Antonio Gibson. I'm so sorry. I wish the Pat Commanders still had him. 11 carries, 96 yards. Did pretty good in this game. Mamondre Stevenson, off of that 120-yard performance against the Bengals, 21 carries, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Those two were part of a 185-yard rushing attack from the Patriots offense. Hunter Henry receiving 8 receptions, 109 yards. Keon White gave the Pats 1.5 sacks, and Joey Sly 2 field goals in 3 tries. Your thoughts on this overtime affair between the Seahawks and the Patriots?
The running attack definitely was big for the Patriots, was kept them in this game. Between Antonio Gibson and Ramondre Stevenson, both putting up great production for this team, along with Hunter Henry, as well, with his contributions, which we haven't heard his name much since he left the Chargers. He hasn't been that formidable piece that he was with the Chargers over with the Patriots. And maybe with this way this offense is styled up now, they've got a better chance of bringing him back to that old Hunter Henry. But at the same time, he has had some injuries. Touching on what you said about Antonio Gibson, I'm actually glad he's not in Washington anymore, because it's a different type of offense that I'll get into here more in a little bit, that he didn't really fit in well with towards the end of his tenure. That now, with it getting younger, not saying he's too old, but with it getting younger and the type of weapons they have in Washington, he just wasn't fitting well with it towards the end. So it's good to see that his new home in New England, it's finally starting to come together. I was concerned about it, but him having almost 100 yards in this past weekend definitely goes to show that he is carving out his own piece there, especially working as the running back, the RB2 behind Ramondre Stevenson. So that definitely worked out well for him. Overall, I like what I saw in both of these two teams fighting. It was definitely a well-balanced attack on both sides, except for the fact that you have those questions at quarterback with the Patriots that are only going to get answered once they put Drake May in there. But at the same time, it does appear that they aren't quite ready to make that switch, because you look at teams like Washington already starting their rookie quarterback, and we've gone through 2 weeks, and it hasn't been the same situation for New England. Time will tell if they'll put him in at quarterback or not, but just like we were talking about with Green Bay not being able to get by with the type of production they're getting out of their quarterback, or the Jets as well with what they're getting from Aaron Rodgers, you're not going to be able to get so far and continue to be successful with production that you're getting like Jacoby Brissett's giving you.
Yeah. No, I agree with all of that. They just need to. To me, the Patriots just need to have a stronger pass presence to actually fortify that defense that they have, which seems to be really good. Unfortunately, they just ran out of gas and time, which that happens. Because that running attack, they keep going. It could take the Patriots places, and they could spoil some teams' chances. Oh, Dante, you say, look, why is he so bad? Bryce might be the worst pick in all the sports. There's still Ryan Leaf, my brother. There's still Ryan Leaf. Heck, I wouldn't even say Ryan Leaf. There's also still DeMarcus Russell. So I'm like, DeMarcus Russell. I'm sorry, man. Those two are still worse than Bryce Young. Wow. Continuing being down south, Duval. They had their opening 2024 game. The Jaguars hosted the Browns, and Mr. Massage Parlor himself, Deshaun Watson. Oh, that's in bad taste. I'm sorry. My bad. Woosah. The Browns, they beat the Jaguars 18-13 due to the performance of Deshaun Watson, 22-34, 186 yards, 5 carries, 20 yards and a touchdown. In essence, he basically didn't get in the team's way. The Browns defense, they were the stars of the show. 4 sacks on the day. Four guys with a sack each, actually. One of them being Myles Garrett. Dusty Hopkins, he gave you 3 field goals in 3 attempts with a long of 53 yards. The Jaguars' Trevor Lawrence. Ever since his injury last fall, this team has been in a tailspin, and he's been in a tailspin with it. 14 of 30, 220 yards, 2 carries for 45 yards on the ground. They just need to really find themselves somehow. Brian Thomas Jr., 2 receptions for 94 yards in the air. Montaric Brown, he gave you 11 solo tackles, which that is a problematic thing. Not the tackling, but as many of those solo tackles. Cam Little, 2 field goals made in 3 attempts. Your thoughts on the Browns and Jaguars, sir?
The pressure that the Browns defense was putting on the Jags was definitely immense when you can see, it affecting the offensive line of the Jaguars, and definitely not giving Trevor Lawrence enough time back there to make decisions, especially when they were put down their own one, and they had that the safety that happened back there in the end zone or whatnot. So when you look at that, when you look at the overall pressure that was put on them by the defense of the Browns, which there have been question marks since the season started about Deshaun Watson, but the defense has definitely been stepping up, and that's what's been formidable for them for the past few seasons. Deshaun Watson definitely still playing very underwhelmingly considering what he's getting paid. But overall, I was very surprised to see a Dustin Hopkins sighting, because I didn't even know he was still in the league until he did what he did this past weekend, because he used to be with Washington and now with Cleveland. So good for him to be 3-on-3 for the day for a 53-yard field goal that he was able to help this team get over the hump with. But overall, you got to look at the aggression of this Jaguars team, of what they were a couple of years ago to what they are now. This offensive line is concerning me. And then, you can only say so much about Trevor Lawrence, because there are issues with the playmakers around him, not just him. And if you don't have enough time to make decisions, you're going to have these type of results. So looking at it at this way, I can't throw so much shade on the quarterback when the overall decisions made by the front office of the Jaguars are starting to catch up with them now.
100% agree. And I'm not just throwing shade at him. It's just he has been a really good reflection of how, definitely offensively for sure, how the team had all this energy and all this positive momentum, and it just devolved and it spiraled downward really fast. And I agree with you. I think he might be missing a playmaker like a Calvin Ridley, who, of course, now he's with the Titans. And I think they probably have to rely a little bit more on Travis Etienne, who had a performance yesterday. But, very few playmakers. The over-reliance on defense, which when you have that and you don't have all the requisite pieces, God, I feel bad for Trayvon Walker. Whew. Just when you have those pieces and you ask him to do so much, you can ask Myles Garrett on the other side. One man can only do so much. And when you have no help and no assistance, this is what you're going to see. And I think we've been seeing this happen, and it's continuing to snowball. Now, as a Texas fan, I'm loving it. But as an analyst, this is not good for the Jaguars. They dropped to 0-2, especially having 2 close losses. The Browns, they improved to 1-1. But Deshaun, you might not have your guaranteed money anymore. Oh, my goodness. Now let's have some fun, shall we? Your Commanders, they had their opening Sunday game, opening home opener. They played against their rival Giants. It was a nip and tuck back and forth affair that the Commanders pulled out by the tune of 21-18. And I will pull up this comment from Dante, which I agree with him about Jaden Daniels. He says, I have to apologize, of course, for those who don't know, he's an Eagles fan. He says, I actually like what I've seen from Jaden Daniels. I actually like what I'm seeing from him, too. 23-29, 226 yards, 10 carries, 44 yards. To me, what I like the most, 0 turnovers. And I do like the 10 carries. Keep it around 10 or a little lower. I can handle that. And, of course, he helped out in the rushing attack. So did Brian Robinson, 17 carries, 133 yards. He did have a reception of 3 yards. The 44 yards from Daniels and the 133 yards from Robinson on the ground, it helped the Commanders offense to gain 215 yards on the ground. I'll get to the player of the game in a minute. For the Giants, Daniel Jones, 16-28, 117 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 carries for 32 yards. Devin Singletary, 16 carries, 95 yards, a touchdown, and Malik Neighbors, 10 receptions, 126 yards, and a touchdown. Jason Pinnock, his 2 of the Giants' 5 sacks were wasted because of Austin Seibert. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, but 7 field goals, including the game winner. Your thoughts on your Commanders getting on the win column against the rival Giants?
Before I give praise to the Commanders in certain lights with this, I do have to say that the Giants, they stepped up in this game. You look at how Daniel Jones was doing, especially in that first half. Of course, when you look at the end result, they had to rely on their kickers more than they should because the offense just wasn't able to punch the ball into the end zone. But Neighbors for the Giants, definitely a great weapon that they had. Him and Daniels played together back in college, so it's nice to see them getting up before the game, dapping it up and stuff like that. But also nice to see both of them leave their mark in this game. Had Devin Singletary not done what he has been accustomed to doing in previous destinations with coughing the ball up, Giants could have potentially won this game because you can't necessarily rely on your kicker, even though we just saw it last week with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Boswell kicking 6 field goals to help them win the game. And it's the shades of that when you have this kicker kicking 1 more than that when we thought the 6 field goals was pretty wild. Now this week we're seeing a kicker do it with 7 and setting a franchise record. Who he already set it when he kicked 6, and then extended it when he kicked the 7th and the final field goal to give them the win in this game. Jaden Daniels, just like with what we talked about last week with him when he had those 16 carries for like 100+ yards last week. This week the numbers were down. But very similar in the aspect of, a lot of those plays that he was running the ball for, like in this case, the 10, I think only like 3 or 4 of them were actually quarterback design runs. He's only really running because the breakdown of the offensive line. Out of these 10 carries, 6 of them wouldn't have even happened with Sam Howell. They would have just been sacks, and he would have had like 4 carries for 7 yards or whatever the case may be. So looking at this the way that it is, there's a huge difference from what the team had last year to now. Sam Howell was a stand tall in the pocket, kind of a quarterback, sling it around for you. Jaden Daniels is a hybrid. He can stand tall, he can sling the rock for you, but also when the play breaks down, which it happens a lot in Washington because of the type of offensive line they have, he gives you options because he can scramble around to get outside the pocket and still throw the ball, or attempt to run and still move the chains that way. So it was nice to see what he did in the game. You could definitely see an improvement from week 1 to week 2. The question is going to be is how consistent is he going to be along with these other young playmakers, and how consistent will the coaching staff be to help them get to the next level?
Playmaker says, no. The Giants deserve no credits today. No.
I'm giving them credit where it's due. They definitely did stand up. At least Daniel Jones did. He definitely improved, at least from what he had been playing
a lot. Yes.
The team itself, no, he improved, and Neighbors helped him look good in some ways too. Some of those catches that he made, those circus style catches. But Other than that, between those two, the rest of the team is still a bunch of dumpster Pelicans.
Speaking of Malik Neighbors, Dante, Eagles fan himself, says, put some respect on Malik Neighbors. That's the future in Philadelphia Eagle when A.J. Brown retires. I like that,
considering the Eagles like to take players from the Giants.
Yeah. That might be the next one. Playmaker says, look, how you score 3 touchdowns, give up no touchdowns, and you still lose. Well, you don't convert any of them 3 touchdowns and extra points of those touchdowns. That's how. But
facts.
The Commanders, and I'm happy for my brother Drew, they improved to 1-1. The Giants, they fall to 0-2, but they should be buoyed because this performance was far better than the one last Sunday against the Vikings. Wow. And now the fun begins. Oh, I'm enjoying it already. The Cowboys in their home opener, they faced off against the Saints. And Cowboys fan, your team were a whole bunch of dumpster Pelicans. All of them. Especially defense, giving up 44 points, and that's supposed to be the strength of your team. Oh my goodness. 44-19, and seriously, the game was not that close, and I'm not talking junk. It really was not that close. Derek Carr, who I think this was probably the best performance I have seen him have in a good while. 11 of 16, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did throw a pick. He did rush for a yard, but it was like a quarterback sneak for a touchdown. Alvin Kamara, stud performance. 20 carries, 115 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the ground. 2 receptions, 65 yards, and a touchdown through the air. And then 115 yards that he gave the Saints, and of course, Carr's 1 yard as well. Both contributed to the 190 yards they put on the ground. Through the air, Rashid Shaheed, 4 receptions, 96 yards, and the gorgeous 70-yard bomb for a touchdown. He also had 3 carries of 13 yards on the ground. Chris Olave sighting, 4 carries, 81 yards. On defense, Carl Granderson gave you a sack and a half, and he was just making life miserable for the Cowboys offensive line. Paulson Adebo gave you a pick, so did Tyrann Mathieu. Yes, Honey Badger. and the Cowboys. Dak Prescott, 27-39, 293 yards, a touchdown and 2 picks, 2 carries and 12 yards on the ground. CeeDee Lamb gave you 90 yards and a touchdown off of 4 receptions. Jalen Tolbert gave you 6 receptions for 82 yards. Donovan Wilson defensively gave you a pick. And Brandon Aubrey was the best offensive performer, even though he plays with special teams, 4 field goals on 4 attempts. Your thoughts on the Saints beating down the Cowboys?
You know, it's like a national holiday. Whenever we get to see the Cowboys take the... Oh, I love it. I love it so much. Whenever you get to see the Cowboys take that nasty L. Now, you got to take a look at the fact that you had Kamara on the other side who turned back the clock. We've been waiting to see if this could actually happen with Alvin, because it's been a couple of years since we've really seen this type of production out of him. You know, 3 total touchdowns of what he did in this game. You know, well, 4, my apologies, because he had 3 rushing and 1 receiving. So he was all over the place. You know, what really hurt the Cowboys, though, was their 3rd down conversion rate. They were 6 of 13 on the day for their conversion rate on 3rd down. You know, overall time possession, both teams had the ball for the same amount of time, particularly. You know, you did have Dak that threw 2 interceptions, but the penalties, you know, there were more penalties that hurt the Saints than there were for the Cowboys, so it wasn't like it was that of an issue. The front of the defense for the Saints was putting a lot of pressure on that Cowboys offensive line.
Were they?
A lot of pressure, which is why their 3rd down conversion rate was not all that great. You know, Dak gets all that money and turns the ball over, but at the same time, the other pieces around him weren't contributing as well. Derek Carr, did well as far as the yards, but I'm still concerned that he's only throwing the ball 16 times a game. Like, you look at last week, you look at this week, I think he's got between 2 games just over 30 attempts passing. So that's not going to bode well, because you're not going to be able to rely on this type of production from Alvin Kamara consistently when you have 15 more games left to play this year.
Agreed.
And it's only going to get colder, and he's older than he was
Yeah.
back when he was doing this consistently. So great on him to turn back the clock, and great for whoever had him in fantasy, but do not expect this to happen each and every week. I am happy to see the Saints at 2-0, and I'm always happy to see the Cowboys take a However, don't expect to see this each and every week out of both teams.
No.
Because the Cowboys are going to pick it back up. We're going to see some more life in them. But that defense over there, as much praise as Jerome wanted to give them, especially over this offseason.
That is my question mark.
You can't give up 44 points like that. Now, the Saints, we already knew they were on the come up because of what they've done over the past couple of years in the offseason. And the talent that they have, we were just waiting to see if Derek Carr could step it back up to what he used to be over with the Raiders. He's somewhat close to what he was before, but can it remain consistent is the question. If they can improve from this 2-0 start. And the Cowboys, there's a lot of question marks on that offensive line. There's a lot of question marks on that defense. And also the fact that you do not have a reliable running back core to establish the run for this team. That also hurts you when you cannot extend the plays with your legs, which is going to hurt you down with third down conversions and so on and so forth.
Yeah. That to me, forget the offense. That to me was the wow. I just don't believe I'm seeing this, because I was seeing the secondary getting burned. I was seeing defensive line getting dominated. And I'm like, doggone. I thought with Mike Zimmer that this was going to be one of those athletic fly around teams like we saw last Sunday, but no, not this Sunday. Ooh, man. And the beatings have begun. Dante. Dallas said, "We them boys." Saints said, "Who that?" Oh, Lord. Playmaker says, "Oh, when the Saints come marching in. Oh, when the Saints come marching in." Oh, and he says, "Ain't nobody calling you, testing you, DMing you, asking you if you still them boys, because we don't care." 100. 100.
Delete!
There it is.
I totally agree, but thank you, Matt. I 100% agree with you. Dante says, "Look, nothing's more enjoyable than watching the Cowboys get the heck beat out of them." And that is coming from an Eagles fan, and the comments that you've heard is coming from Drew. That's coming from the Commanders fan. So it definitely is the case. The Cowboys, they fall to 1-1. The Saints, they improve to 2-0. And they have scored, I think, the third most points in 2 games in the history of the NFL, if I'm not mistaken, with 93.
I think the Saints can officially say this.
I think I got my swagger back. Oh.
But when it comes to the Cowboys,
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
Oh, and for you Cowboys fans and I saw this a couple of times last week, who said that we're going to go all the way to the Super Bowl.
This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation.
the compliment.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it to compliment my partner.
You guys want to hear a fucking story?
There ain't no way you go to the Super Bowl.
Thank you. You're going to be missing it for the 29th straight year because you can't have a Super Bowl team and give up 44 points like that. No way. No way, no how. No. Let's get to more Sunday games. Go to the afternoon affairs. And Playmaker, we have one for you. The Rams have their second straight road game. They went to the desert to play the Cardinals. Playmaker, did they lead their defense in Los Angeles? Final score was 44-10. The game really wasn't even that close. You made Kyler Murray look like Tom Brady. Yeah, you all need to call Aaron Donald and get him back on the team. 17-21, 266 yards, 3 touchdowns, 5 carries and 59 yards on the ground. This dude made it for 300 total yards, and it looked effortless to him. Sad. James Conner, 21 carries, 122 yards on the ground with a touchdown. He had over 72 yards in the air. That 122 yards from Conner and 59 from Murray. It comprised of a 231 rushing yard performance from the Cardinals. Oh, and people were thinking that Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't going to be seen. 4 receptions, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not a mere bag of shells. On defense, Dennis Gardeck, he gave you 3 of the Cardinals' 5 sacks of Matthew Stafford. Oh, and there's a Matthew Prater sighting. 2 along from 57. Oh, and I did say Matthew Stafford. 19-27, 216 yards. And your thoughts on this absolute beatdown the Cardinals gave the Rams?
Playmaker, you guys have got some big questions that you got to answer, and a lot of it has to deal with your running game. Out of 52 plays, 52 total offensive plays that the Rams had, you only mustered up 53 total rushing yards. It's not going to get it done, especially when you have the type of quarterback that you have with Matthew Stafford, because you have to be able to establish a running game to open things up for him to pass, because that's all he can do. He's not a rushing type of quarterback.
Never has.
Where like when you exactly, it's where when you have teams like the Ravens or the Commanders or other teams that have quarterbacks that can move the ball with their legs, you're a lot more limited when it comes to what you can do. You know, you got a quarterback that's closer towards the end of his career than he is towards the beginning of his career, and you got to have some type of running game to help establish what you're trying to do over there for your team, and it's not working out. I don't think that anybody saw Marvin Harrison Jr. having the first quarter of the game like he had, because he did all of that production in the first quarter. All of those stats, the 4 receptions, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, all of that happened in the first quarter of the game. It was absolutely wild to see what he did. They got off to a great start early. The second half of the game was not as enjoyable to watch if you're a fan of high-scoring action. Right. But a lot of this is also attributed to the Cardinals' defense. The Cardinals' defense did a great job in containing the Rams' offense, to where they couldn't establish the run. But they don't really have any viable pieces, in my opinion, over there for the Rams offensively when it comes to their running attack, because Blake Corum is not doing what he was doing in college for the Wolverines. And you've also got, Kieran Williams, who he's shown flashes here and there over the past 2 seasons, but I don't think the offensive line is as bad as what the numbers that were produced from this game was. This was a huge surprise as far as the deficit goes. I think people, were predicting along with us that the Cardinals could win this game against the Rams, but not in the manner in which they did. I thought they put up more of a fight, especially with their running game as well, in establishing that a little bit more, because there's been a lot of hype on Blake Corum. There's been hype on Kieran Williams as well, which is why they let go of Cam Akers and Austin Eckler, more of a receiving back, which he showcased in the game with Washington yesterday, and especially on special teams. They were getting away from that to go with younger talent who are better with just their overall running game on paper and maybe in the Madden video game, but they did not play video game in this past game. I can't say it enough. When you have 52 plays in a game and you can only muster 53 rushing yards out of 52 total plays from your offense,
Not good.
and it's not good at all. And you're not helping out your quarterback with that. You're not helping out your overall team. But definitely big on Marvin Harrison Jr. to have the type of game that he had yesterday. It was also big for Kyler Duty to have the type of game that he had yesterday, because it's good for his confidence and this team's overall, direction moving forward. The Rams, and if you're a playmaker, a fan of the Rams, you should be concerned right now with what you saw out of this team against a team like the Cardinals, who were pretty mediocre last year without their number one quarterback.
Oh my goodness, yeah, and Playmaker will tell you I show no mercy on Sean McVay, because I think when games get out of control like this, it's like he forgets the run exists and he just says, "Sling it, Matt, sling the ball. I don't care, just pass it." Oh my gosh! So Playmaker says, "Look, Sensei, it doesn't help when the defense gives up 14 points in 2 minutes. Oh, not to mention 4 backup offensive linemen playing. It's 2022 all over again." He says, "And Cole already got the popcorn, already has his popcorn, is ready to drink for Thursday. He does a show called Ramley Talk." And so, of course, we will get his understandings as to how things are going. And yes, Dante, I'm looking forward to what Stephen A. Smith has to say on First Take, because he hates the Cowboys probably as much as many of us do. And it's must-see television.
But he's friends with Jarrell.
That's right. But he does interviews with Jarrell. Dante says, "Yeah, I hear what you're saying about the lack of rushing yards, but the Cardinals came out swinging." Yeah, they did. And that's what they have to do. That's exactly what they have to do. The Cardinals, they improved to 1-1. The Rams, now they're 0-2, and they have their home opener against the 49ers coming up next. And the 49ers took it on the chin. Whew, we might be seeing them 0-3. And then we have the Mile High Slugfest. And it literally was one between the Broncos and their home opener against the Steelers. The Steelers, they beat the Broncos 13-6. It actually was 13-0 before the Broncos actually even scored, which I think it was like early in the fourth quarter. Justin Fields, pedestrian. And I really do mean that. 13-20, 117 yards in the touchdown, 8 carries for 27 yards on the ground. That 27 yards was part of a balanced attack between Warren and Harris to give them 141 yards on the ground. DeMonte Casey gave you an interception in the end zone that stopped one of those red zone drives from Bo Nix. Corey Trice, he had the INT that sealed things in the end. Chris Boswell, who had 6 field goals last Sunday, he only had 2 this time with a long of 53 yards. And the aforementioned Bo Nix. 20 completions of 35 attempts, 246 yards, 2 interceptions, 4 carries to 25 yards on the ground. Josh Reynolds, he was the man for the Broncos, 4 receptions for 93 yards. Your thoughts on this slugfest that was basically catered to the Steelers in their victory against the Broncos?
It definitely was catered to the Steelers. Their running attack definitely was what helped keep them in this game right there. But also the 2 interceptions thrown by the rookie Bo Nix was what also helped keep them in this game, because under ordinary circumstances, if this was Bo Nix's second or third year in the league, which if he becomes a developed quarterback that actually can produce consistent numbers like he has been without the turnovers, I feel like that this game should have gone to the Broncos because of the production that they got overall from their offense. It's just the mistakes is what cost them. And the running attack from the Steelers is what kept him in it, because Justin Fields is still not doing enough to solidify himself as the number 1 quarterback for the Steelers. He's doing a better job with not turning the ball over and making better decisions. But as far as your overall production, when you get to weeks 16, 17, 18 of the season, you're not going to be able to rely on this type of production if you're going to be having a playoff team to make a run in this upcoming year's playoffs. So definitely good on the Steelers to get the win that they did. It goes more so for the type of defense that they have to the production that they got out of them as to why they got this win, not so much as the quarterback play. I just still don't think that Fields has done enough to lock up the number one quarterback spot. But this Steelers defense is definitely the truth, and I look forward to seeing what they can do from now to the end of the season.
I 100% agree with you about Fields not locking up the number one quarterback position. But Russell Wilson has the lack of his presence and the lack of his being what he used to be when he was with the Seahawks is locking it up for him. So it has nothing to do with, to me, what Fields is doing. It has a lot to do with what Russell Wilson is not doing. And yes, I agree with you. This team is being led by their defense, and the offense just, you better not cough the ball up or turn the ball over. And if that continues, we might be seeing more victories. But yes, can this continue against steeper competition? Probably not. However, the Steelers do start the year 2-0, and it has been a minute since we've actually said the Steelers they're off to a strong start. Strong is an operative, strange word to say when you had 18 points scored in one game and 13 in another. But still, they're off to 2-0 start. The Broncos, unfortunately, are 0-2. I don't think they're missing Russell Wilson, but they may be missing John Elway. All right, more Sunday games. This time, the Sunday night affair between the Bears and the Texans. It was a pretty decent, spirited defensive affair, with the Texans ending up winning the game 19-13 over the Bears. C.J. Stroud, a solid performance, actually. 22 of 35, 260 yards, a touchdown, a carry with a -1 yard. I will take this every single week from Mr. Stroud because he takes care of the ball wonderfully. Wonderful job again yesterday. Nico Collins, 8 receptions, 135 yards, and a touchdown. On the defensive side, you have Danielle Hunter, a sack and a half and 2 tackles for loss. You had Will Anderson, the reigning defensive rookie of the year, a sack and a half as well for him, and 2 tackles for loss for him as well. Those 3 sacks were part of a 7-sack barrage from the Texas defense. You had Kamari Lassiter give you a pick. Derek Stingley Jr., he gave you a pick as well. And not to be outdone in special teams, you had Kemi Fairbairn, 4 field goals. 3 of them were from 50-plus yards, 1 from 53, 1 from 56, and the long one from 59. And you had and you have Cairo Santos on the other side, 2 field goals and 2 field goals made, 1 from 53 yards, 1 from 54 yards. So we saw some really good kicking. But quarterback play from Caleb Williams, not so much. 23 of 37, 174 yards, 2 picks with 5 carries and 44 yards on the ground. Your thoughts on the Texans Bears Sunday night affair?
This was a great defensive contest between both teams. It was definitely, you and I were talking about it last night, actually about the fact of how great both of our teams put up great defensive matchups. Looking at things, how they went overall, 7 sacks.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild. Like we're used to talking about this in like college football, like UFL, CFL. This is not something we get to see every week. Just like earlier with my team, we don't talk about a team that has a kicker that kicks 7 field goals a lot in a game. Right. We also don't see a defense have 7 sacks a lot in a game as well. So kudos to that defense as well. I know J.J. Watt is wishing he was able to play with this type of defense, but they have yet to call his number, even though he's in shape and ready to come off the free agency side or come out of retirement to play for him. Fairbairn as well. You talk about the 3 field goals of over 50-plus yards. This is 2 consecutive weeks that he has 6 50-plus yard field goals. He's got 3 in each game. That is insane looking at that too. So they can definitely keep this up. This team looks like they have definitely built on what they had established last year, and they are coming. They are on the way. And for many of you who waited 20 real years now for a Houston team to be formidable in the NFL, you finally got it. Even though you've had some flashes in the pan, the past 2 years have shown you've got a true team on your hands. When it comes to the Chicago Bears, the pressure that was on Caleb Williams was absolutely real, like all night long.
Every time he dropped back,
there was pressure on the Texans as well, but they were able to handle it a little bit better. They have a stronger front than the Bears do, and Caleb Williams also not what CJ Stroud is, or at least not yet. This is only his second game. You know, not everybody gets to have the type of start to their career like CJ Stroud does, and he's had his hiccups here and there since he started, but he does a lot better job of managing the game, especially at this course in his career. Maybe Caleb Williams can get there in time, but right now, you know, you look at what CJ Stroud did, you look at what Nico Collins contributed as well. I mean, definitely huge games for them. But the 2 interceptions is what helped cause the Bears their loss, and a lot of that goes to inexperience on the professional level. And you can't really say but so much negative about it, because besides his 2 interceptions and the pressure that was on him, Caleb Williams handled himself well in the bright lights of Sunday Night Football. So as far as the Bears, they're in a lot better position than what they were last year. And if Justin Fields was the quarterback for them, they would have had an even worse game, because it's the overall team in Pittsburgh and the defense that's carrying him to the success, as to where with the Bears, they're not built like that to be able to do that at this time. But to have the type of production that they got out of this new quarterback and what they have for this 2024 team, definitely a lot more positive you could say about the Bears today than negative. But they do have some more adjustments they need to make before they get to the point to where the Houston Texans are. The weapons that the Houston Texans have with the wide receivers, your running back talent, the offensive line in itself, and not only that, but the defense overall. You've got to say, and I'm not just trying to blow your head up because this is your team, Cole, but looking at all 32 teams in the league, this is one of the best, if not, in my opinion, the best established team in all 3 phases of the game. And the Houston Texans should, in my opinion, be in the AFC Championship game this year.
Man, your lips to God's ears. Hopefully they can. If the defense plays like this, they will. And I'm not blowing smoke. The only reason why I don't go all the way and say they will be in the AFC Championship game, I want to see if CJ can gather some more experience, and if he can show me, in a pressure situation, I'm going to be like this. And yes, he showed a little bit last year, but if he could show me a little bit more of that, maybe, in the game they play in Arrowhead and when they face off against the Ravens, if I see that and I see him account for himself, which I think he will, then I probably would feel better. But I 100% agree with you from the standpoint of this team try to build to be a contender on all 3 phases. And they had that in mind, not just getting a quarterback. And as for the Bears, I agree with you. They're better than when they were with Justin Fields leading them, and they have a defense that actually can help Caleb Williams out. It's just a matter of him figuring it out. And once he figures it out, the Bears are going to be a problem too. But they just have to figure it out. He hasn't yet. And they'll squeak out victories like they did last Sunday, but they're going to have games. They're going to have more games like this too, where you'll see glimpses, you'll see flashes, and then you'll see mistakes, which that's what you're going to see with any rookie. And you saw that with CJ Stroud too. So look, kudos to both teams. I loved what I saw, actually. And I'm not just talking about the victory from the Texans. I actually liked what I saw from the Bears, because I was like, okay, so then you're not just going to throw your hat in the ring and just say, well, we're on Sunday Night Football. We know that you're better than us, Houston. We give up. They fought. I loved it. But the Bears, they fall to 1-1. The Texans, they improved to 2-0, and they are 2 games clear of everybody in the AFC South. So that right there makes me happy. Now, what doesn't make me happy, not necessarily the teams, but how the performance was, is this? M&T Bank Stadium, Baltimore, Maryland. The Ravens, they have their home opener. They go up against the Raiders. They had a 10-point lead going into the latter part of the fourth quarter when the whole team decided to take a vacation. The Raiders stormed back. They forced an overtime. They milked the clock to get a 26-23 lead, only giving the Ravens a minute or so to have the ball back, and they couldn't do much of anything with it. Final score, 26-23. In overtime, the Raiders beat the Ravens. Gardner Minshew, or Uncle Rico, 30 of 38, 276 yards, a touchdown and interception. He had a carry for -1 yard. Devontae Adams being Devontae Adams, one of the best wide receivers in the game, and he proved it why in this one. 9 receptions, 110 yards, and a touchdown. Brock Bowers, the man that I still believe the Falcons should have drafted, but they were stupid enough not to. 9 receptions, 98 yards. And look at that. They have never mind. On defense, one of my favorite players, Max Crosby, he got down with 2 sacks in that one. Huge player. Huge important piece. Robert Spillane, he gave him a pick. Daniel Carlson, he gave you 4 field goals and 4 attempts with a long of 53 yards. And then you have Lamar Jackson on the other side. 21 of 34, 247 yards, a touchdown and interception. 5 carries of 45 yards. Half of that was on the last play of the game. Derrick Henry, who started off very slow, gave you 18 carries, which is still not enough. 84 yards and a touchdown. He gave you a reception for 12 yards in the air. Zay Flowers, 7 receptions, 91 yards and a touchdown. A wasted effort. Oh, no, they wasted the effort of Odafe Owe. 2.5 sacks with 2 tackles for loss. And Calvin Noy also with 2 sacks and 3 tackles for losses. And the Ravens defense had 5 sacks of Gardner Minshew, and they still took the L. And Justin Tucker, not to be outdone, 3 field goals and 4 attempts. Your thoughts on the Ravens blowing it against the Raiders?
Uncle Rico needs to stand outside his front door and have everybody around him
Acknowledge me.
My gosh.
because you and many others out there wanted to doubt Uncle Rico. And I told you, when they signed Uncle Rico this offseason,
Why?
this was going to be a franchise-changing move. Did I not? I told you. You know what? Zoom in this camera. Bring it right
Why?
here.
Why?
You doubted Uncle Rico. All right, let's zoom out again. Now, back to the message. Looking at the Raiders right here, 30 of 38 is what he did in this game. I mean,
Why?
looking at that, he absolutely crushed it. He crushed it. Look at what he's done in college. Look at what he did when he was doubted when the Jaguars picked him up. He had some success there. He had some success in Indianapolis, and now he's having success here. He was the backup with the Phillies, so you can't really give us so much there. He didn't get that many opportunities. But now, look at Uncle Rico with what is happening out here on this gridiron. Great pickup, franchise-changing move, and they wouldn't have won this game without Uncle Rico. Now, he has to be a little bit more careful because he did have 1 interception in this game as well. But considering the fact that he did that while only having 8 incompletions on 38 total attempts, I got to say it was pretty respectable. Devontae Adams was a huge part of his production as well with what he did, along with Brock Bowers finally stepping it up and doing what they've been hyping him up all offseason to do. He did it in this game. There was one play that I will say, and I texted you about this as well when it happened. Max Crosby absolutely destroying.
Stud.
He was a stud, but he absolutely destroyed Lamar Jackson. Go back and look at the highlights of the game, and I saw it in real time. The one sack where it looks like a bus ran over Lamar Jackson, like Lamar. And I said to you in the quote of Lamar Demetrius Jackson. Okay, you got destroyed by Max Crosby on that play. So the defense was hard hitting in this game. That's what made it an impact for them to continuously stay in it to where they could go into overtime and get the win.
Mhm.
But also, even though he did have one interception that he was thrown, overall for the majority of the game, Minshew did a really good job of protecting the ball, except for the one interception he threw, and he proved it by having 30 of 38 of those 30 of those passes completed out of 38 attempts. So looking at this overall, they played really well on offense and defense in this game. Special teams, there's some concerns about a little bit with the Raiders, but I think overall they can clean those things up and they can have a pretty successful season if they stay on this path.
I agree. I think they felt the Raiders. I think they felt they really, really missed a golden opportunity to really impress, because I think the Chargers just overran them literally, and I think they wanted to come out with a better effort actually, and they didn't for a while. Offensively, defensively, I think they started off slow, but then they built and built and built and built that momentum to where they finally was able to slow down the Ravens rushing attack and slow down the Ravens period. This team is gritty, and when they match the grittiness of their head coach Antonio Pierce, they seem to play better. Now, the rushing attack in this game, but hopefully that will improve, and I think it will if you have the steady success of both Max Crosby and a Devontae Adams. I think if you have those two wonderfully fed, I think the rest of the team will build in confidence. So the Raiders, they're 1-1 now. They improved to 1-1. The Ravens, with the last play of regulation being by a foot, and a last play ended up being 30 yards short, they now are 0-2. Did we think we was going to say that about this team? Not really. And now we get to the game of the week. Arrowhead Stadium, Jihad at Arrowhead. The defending two-time champion Kansas City Chiefs, they host the Cincinnati Bengals yet again. And normally when these two teams match up, the margin of victory normally is 3 points or less. This didn't disappoint. Final score 26-25. The Chiefs, not necessarily buoyed by the performance of Patrick Mahomes, 18-25, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. In fact, this is the lowest yard total passing that Mahomes has had in a win for the Chiefs. Isaiah Pacheco, 19 carries, 90 yards, 5 receptions, 21 yards. Unfortunately, he now is on IR, so he'll probably be missing for at least 4 games, maybe more. It sucks to see him limp out of the game because he was doing wonderful for them. In fact, that 90 yards, it strengthened a 149 rushing yard performance from the Chiefs offense, and it makes me actually like the Chiefs better because they're trying to be balanced on offense. Joe Burrow for the Bengals, 23 of 36, 258 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a costly because that fumble was returned for a touchdown. Mike Gesicki, where's the Jamar Chase? Oh, he's trying to chase the money. My bad. 7 receptions, 91 yards for Gesicki, who he was drafted for times such as this. Trey Hendrickson, he was giving the Chiefs offensive line fits. 2 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, and I can't remember how many penalties he drew against the offensive line. Akeem Davios-Gaither, he gave you a pick. So did Cam Taylor-Britt. Evan McPherson, he gave you 4 field goals with the long of 53 yards. But, of course, the man of the hour, Harrison Butker, he gave you a game winner from 51. I think he made another field goal earlier in the half. But the game winner from 51 gave the point total, or should I say, gave the win to the Chiefs. Your thoughts on this game, sir?
Overall, looking back on it, this game wouldn't have been as close had Patrick Mahomes not thrown those 2 interceptions. And one of them was definitely he should not have put that ball in there either. The one that he had intended for Kelsey that was nearly taken back for a pick 6. Looking at this overall, the Chiefs, they're definitely trying to adjust their ways throughout these years to become, more formidable team on all phases, passing and running as well. But they got to be careful with some of these decisions that they're making. With the type of hype that Patrick Mahomes has had on him since he came to the league and has been a starting quarterback in year 2 of his career. Some of these mistakes that he's making are not what an actual elite quarterback would make. So he's got to be a little bit more careful when it comes to these positions that he's putting himself in. I know it's only week 2. They're still figuring some things out. They got some new pieces on the team. They got one wide receiver who's not going to probably be playing with them for so much longer until the league, makes their final decision on his punishment. Mm-hmm. But once that finally happens and they can work with what they truly have for the rest of the season, I think we'll start to see them get more locked in and dialed in place. Right now, I think they're utilizing Rashee Rice as much as they can because, to save others from potentially getting hurt, because the more they use him, the more of a break they can give everybody else to where they can start acclimating them later into the season. But I think that the decision on Rashee Rice will come sooner than later, and we'll get to see what this Chiefs team is truly made of at that point. But Mahomes, for the accolades that he has since he's become the starting quarterback, I think he needs to do a better job of protecting the ball. Overall, based on what the end result was, for the Bengals to keep it as close as it was, considering the circumstances, I think it was good on them, and I think that we're going to see that team continue to evolve as they have been over the past few years. This is not the last time we'll see these teams play each other this year.
I don't think so either, but I want the Bengals to get their act together because they need to, and because we need to see this game again, and I think we will, because for some reason the Bengals just seem to match up really well with the Chiefs. Dante says, why do the refs decide these games? That was not pass interference of the 4th and 17 that led to the field goal opportunity for Butker. The defender has a right to the ball. Yes, he has a right to the ball, but he doesn't have a right to the player. And if a defender climbs on the back of a receiver, the referee's going to throw the flag every time. That's just a fact. Now, if he was just trying for the ball, and it looked like they were jockeying for position, then yes, that flag would have been unfairly thrown. But you can as a defender climb on the back of a receiver to get the ball. Now, if you're athletic enough and you can do it and not hit the receiver, by all means. But they're going to say that the defender interfered with the receiver, and that's what happened. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. And this is not one of those the refs help the Chiefs out situations. No, the Bengals cost themselves the game. That penalty and the call and the call from Burrow when they had the ball and the lead, a 6-point lead if I'm not mistaken, and the Chiefs returned it for 6. But the Bengals got to learn. They are now at 0-2. The Chiefs are at 2-0. And that concludes opening drive. And when we come back, we will have our Snowflakes of the week, but coming up next, the Grand Champ.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989 on 2. Ready? Hey!
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy, and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast. Every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason.
Oh, yeah. When you hear that sound, you already know what time it is. It is time to award our grand champ for this week. And Drew, who is yours?
This is a really tough decision to make, but when you look overall at what they did, I have to give my dog of the week. I want to give it to the Saints defense, right? But I don't feel right doing that based on the fact that I don't know how many more opportunities we're going to have to talk about this one individual and turning back the clock like he did. I got to go with Alvin Kamara. With him, 15 carries, 83. Well, no, this is wait, hang on.
Yeah,
do I have the wrong? I must have the wrong slate up because 15. He had 4 total touchdowns in this game this past weekend.
Yeah.
So, looking at this right here, let me slide down a little bit because for some reason, I had the wrong one up. My apologies, people. All right, so Alvin Kamara, 20 carries, 115 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 receptions for 65 yards and a touchdown. That's who I'm going with for my dog of the week because you look at that type of production right there, that is absolutely absurd for the Cowboys to give that up. But you look at the type of talent that Kamara has been in his career. He deserves this type of outcome for his numbers, and this team deserves what they got out of him. I'm going with Alvin Kamara as my dog of the week.
I am surprised that you wouldn't go that route, but and I was actually he was on my short list. Good pick, really good pick, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that. Let me see. Now, like I mentioned, Alvin Kamara was going to be one that I was going to mention. Let me see. Aiden Hutchinson in a losing cause. He was probably going to be one I was going to mention. The Texas defense with 7 sacks, but I'm not going to be Homer. I'm not going to pick them. Who I am going to pick, I'm actually going to give my brother's team, not the whole team, but the place kicker, Austin Seibert. They were struggling to find a kicker. They did not know if they had the right guy, and then when they played the Bucks last week, didn't make the field goals. So they got rid of him, and then they get Austin Seabrook, and look at what he has done for his very first game. 7 field goals and 7 attempts. And it was because of that leg that the Commanders got that W, along with, of course, the rushing attack and the total team defense. That leg was the reason, and I had to give it up to him and give it up to the Commanders for not quitting in this game and fighting all the way through. And that 7th field goal was the difference. So, Austin Seabrook, you are my dog this week, my brother.
I agree with your message overall. That was definitely great. I mean, 7 field goals in a game is hard to accomplish, and it's not that often that a team has to rely on that for the victory.
No. So now it looks like the Commanders have found their kicker for at least the foreseeable future, and hopefully that they can win some more. Well, those are our grand champs. Who are yours?
Total football talk.
Featured attractions. This is where we take the top 3 games for the next week and we break them down. And so we will start. Actually, all 3 of these games will be, and all these are local, all these are Eastern times. All 3 games we picked will have kickoffs Sunday at 1 p.m. So we'll begin with the Steelers having their home opener against the Chargers. Both teams are 2-0. And it's on CBS. The kickoff's at 1, of course, on Sunday. Jim Harbaugh. I think what we saw with the 49ers, I think he has brought that same type of game plan, and also in Michigan. He's brought that same type of game plan, at least offensively for sure, to the Chargers, because they do not resemble the Chargers, offensively what they were last year or the years before. In their 2-0 start, how much credit do you give Jim Harbaugh for their start?
Give a lot of credit to him, because, I mean, you look at what they had last year with Staley. There's no way that he could get this team to start off with a 2-0 record with this type of production out of them as well. So, yeah, I think a lot of his mentality that he brought to San Francisco prior and to Michigan, and then with what he did as a player before all of that,
Right.
I think a lot of that, adds up into the type of character that he is, and the type of production that he gets out of this team is based on the leadership that he provides.
Good answer. And I think he has been the biggest help to Justin Herbert. That dude has a lot of talent, but I think it was not coached well enough. And now you have a guy who's a head coach who was a QB in the league, and he can navigate Herbert through a lot of those things that quite frankly, Brandon Staley just could not. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I think Harbaugh is a huge, important ingredient to the Chargers start. On the other side, the Steelers, yes, they're 2-0. They scored only 18 points against the Falcons and 13 points against the Broncos. Let's be completely honest. If Fields has 300 yards total combined in yards through the air, that's saying something. Now, we'll call this winning ugly. Now, can the Steelers continue this business of winning ugly?
No, they can't. Their defense can definitely keep them in games throughout the year like this, but they've got to get more production out of their offense, no matter who the quarterback is or what they use with their weapons around them. They got decent talent around them at their running back position with Najee Harris and with their wide receivers as well, led by Pickens. But putting all this into perspective, I don't believe they're going to be able to continue winning the way that they have been.
I agree. I think they need to have more contribution from their quarterback. And definitely, I think they need to involve Jalen Warren and Najee Harris a little bit more than they really have in both games in order for the Steelers to actually be a contender and keep going. But the 2 games that they have played, yeah, you get stiffer competition. I think that won't happen. Who do you have in this one between the Steelers and their home opener and the Chargers?
This one's very tough. And I feel like I can't go against the coach. I can't go against Mike Tomlin. I gotta go. I gotta go with him in this game. This is going to come down to coaching. This is going to come down to defense. One of these two teams that are 2-0 has to lose here, and I think at some point the Steelers are going to hit a brick wall with the way this offense has been. But I don't feel like it's going to be this Sunday. I feel like, if the Chargers are going to continue to rebuild, they've got to have some tough losses, and this is going to be one of them. It's going to be very close. It's not going to be pretty, but I feel like the Steelers win this game.
If the Chargers defense was a little bit stiffer and their offense was a little more solid, I would go with the Chargers, but I'm 100% with you. I think the Chargers, the way they're constituted, is tailor-made for the Steelers to actually defeat. And I'm not saying it's going to be an easy win, but I think they don't pose enough of a threat for them. So yes, I also picked the Steelers. I think they go to 3-0, and I agree with you too. I think the Chargers need to bump their butt, and I think this will be the first bumping of their butt, and they'll go down to 2-1. Also, Sunday 1 p.m. kick, again all times Eastern. The Saints coming off an impressive 44-19 thumping of the Cowboys. They come back home and they face the Eagles. Currently, they are 1-0. They have a Monday night game tonight against the Falcons. Fox will have that game. Sunday kickoff will be at 1. Let's look at the Eagles for a second. So it looks like they want to have a balanced attack on offense. And I think Sirianni wants to hold back Jalen Hurts from running so much, but he ran a lot in their game in Brazil. And Saquon Barkley, he had 24 carries, 109 yards in that game with a touchdown. Can the Eagles consistently commit to Saquon Barkley in the running game?
Yes, I mean they're going to have to. There's no other way that they can have the success of this year that they're forecasting without him doing that. So yes, they have to consistently commit to him in the running game.
And I think they must. I agree with you. I think they can. I think they must, and I believe they will. Now, with the Saints, this offense, they scored 47 points against the Panthers, 44 points against the Cowboys. It has been balanced and lethal. Can this offense be as lethal going forward as they have been in their first two games?
Oh yeah, they absolutely can. They just have to continue to stay motivated to do so. I feel like the Saints can definitely continue to be as lethal as they have been in their first two games.
Yeah, I do too. And I think if they can continuously have that balance on offense, that will help everybody out in that team. So your prediction between the Eagles and the Saints, who you have winning this one?
It's tough because based on, without us not seeing tonight's game yet, with this game right here, it's kind of tough to forecast in my opinion with that, but I'll give my best due diligence for it. I think the Saints are going to keep it up and steamroll them, and they're going to win by at least two scores.
I think the game will be closer. I do think the Saints are going to win it, but I think it's going to be a really good contest. And Dante agrees. He says yes. He said that contract that Saquon signed and the offense coordinator Kellen Moore is going to actually force them to run the ball more. I would say also along with it, the fact they have Jalen Hurts and they don't want to have the mileage on him and those legs is going to force them to run the ball more too. But that is to their success, and hopefully they continue to do that, because that makes the Eagles a more exciting and more dangerous team if that happens. Our third Sunday at 1 p.m. kick for featured attractions. The Texans, fresh off of their Sunday night win against the Bears, they are now 2-0. They travel to the Midwest, and they face off against the Vikings, who are also at 2-0, coming off of their win against the 49ers. CBS will carry that game, 1 p.m. kick for a Sunday. Now, the Texans right now have a 2-game lead with the rest of the division. They're 2-0. The other teams are 0-2. Should the Texans treat this game as a must-win situation?
Yes, and definitely a must-win situation that also doesn't include making Sam Darnold look an MVP candidate. And I don't think that they will, because this is the first team that the Minnesota Vikings are going to face with this type of defense, because the first two games they didn't play against a defense like the Texans have.
Right.
So, but yes, I think they should treat it as a must win, but I think it's going to come a little bit easier than what we give them credit for.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. I think they should treat this like it is like a divisional game where it's like, we got to have this game. Yeah, I think they have to treat it that way. And hopefully they do. Going to the Viking side of things. Now, we saw them demolish the Giants, and we saw them really have their way against the 49ers. I mean, it wasn't a blowout, but they seemed to really have their way on both sides of the ball, more so defensively than offensively. There seems to be a good amount of talent on this team. Have we slept on the Vikings' possible potential?
Overall, fans and critics of football, yes, I think that they have. Us, no, because we've talked about the potential of the Vikings, especially with the team they have around them. Did we sleep on Sam Darnold a little bit? Maybe, but I think Sam Darnold's a product of the system that he's in and who he's got around him, more so than what he is as an individual player, because if he was this good, we would have seen it before in New York. We would have seen it before in Carolina. We would have seen it in San Francisco. And even though he did have some small windows, and he did have some small windows of time in San Francisco to get that showcased, he did look better, but that was basically the product of where he was. The same thing here. I think overall, is the overall team. People have slept on them and forgot that it wasn't all Kirk Cousins that made them as good as they were. But at the same time, we can't give so much credit to Sam Darnold until, we get further in the season and he continues to prove what he is and the talent that he showcases.
I love how you answered that, because I don't think we slept on their potential. I think we slept on Sam Darnold a little bit, but yeah, sort of product of environments and tape. Did we think that Sam Darnold had the capability of doing what he did yesterday? No. No, we did not. No. But I don't think we're stupid to say that. No one did. And so I think when you have the weapons, because they do have some weapons, especially Justin Jefferson, who to me is the best receiver in the league, all you need to do is have a quarterback that can actually make sense of the offense and not turn the ball over, and at least give him 5, 6, or 7 opportunities to do his thing. Then yeah. But yeah, I don't think I know we didn't sleep on the Vikings' potential or talent, because they have a lot of it. So who would you choose between the Texans and the Vikings to become 3-0 in this one?
Oh, the Houston Texans, without a doubt, based on what they've already showcased in 2 games. If this was them relying on one side of the ball, like offense or defense, then I would probably say this is going to be an up-in-the-air game. But because they are well-balanced in all 3 phases, I'm giving it to the Texans, and they should basically humble the Minnesota Vikings this weekend, in my opinion.
I agree. I think they will go to 3-0. The reason why I believe they'll go 3-0, the Vikings run attack is not strong enough for me to give me pause and say, ooh, I think the Texans might get an L here. If that can strengthen, then I would probably say, yeah, I can see an L. But no, I think the Texans will do wonderful things. I think they'll go back to Houston 3-0 next Sunday. And that concludes this week's featured attractions. Who do you believe is going to win between the Chargers Steelers, the Eagles Saints, and the Texans Vikings? Put your answer down either in the chat here or the chat when you're watching it on replay. But I think we have a snowflake.
Total Football Talk.
Oh, yes. It is not Christmas. We've got 3 months from that, but it is time for Snowflake of the Week. And for his snowflake, Mr. Willingham, please do the honors.
as much as I want to give it to the Dallas Cowboys, Gerald, Dakota Rain Prescott, all the people involved with the Dallas Cowboys, I just can't. When you think that there are other situations that are actually far worse than dealing with
Agreed.
Big D. Okay.
Agreed.
Cole and I going back talking about the human turnstiles in Carolina. Just how bad that team is, not just on offense, but how bad they are on defense, special teams, the front office, the ownership. Basically, my snowflake of the week is anybody who is employed by the Carolina Panthers, because you are all absolutely terrible. And it resembled itself, and it shows itself in every single game. It even shows up when you walk to the bus to get onto the bus to go to the game. Everything that you do absolutely sucks. Even when you go to the bathroom, you suck. Even when you take out the trash, you suck. No matter what you do in this world, if you are a part of the Carolina Panthers, you are absolutely terrible. So, with all that being said, I'm going with anybody who is employed by the Carolina Panthers from top of the totem pole to bottom. You are all my snowflake of the week this week.
Well, you have my vote just on David Tepper alone. Oh my gosh. That goodness gracious. Yeah, good choice. And yes, I feel for Bryce Young because he is behind 5 300-pound turnstiles. And it looks like it has not improved any. Oh my goodness.
Terrible.
Very. Now, yeah, I could have picked anybody for the Panthers. I could pick the Rams. I could definitely go with the Cowboys too. I could even go with the rest of the AFC South, but I'm not going to go that route. I'm actually going to go a route that is going to be a little bit interesting. So, Kyler Murray, he had a wonderful game this past Sunday. I mean, he did great. I mean, the effort was absolutely outstanding. I could not say anything better out of it. I mean, I would say if I were one of the coaches, I would say this is the stat I want you to do every single game. 17-21, 266 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 60 yards on the ground, but you decide not to run it but 5 times. I want that all the time from Mr. Murray. But what I don't want is unaccountability. What do I mean? I'm talking about what he said the week prior. Now, people were saying that, well, wait a minute, you have this high draft pick of Marvin Harrison Jr., but you're not giving him the ball. What's wrong? Why is it? What is it that you're not doing? And Mr. Murray had the nerve to opine, quote, "It's not my job to give him targets." Close quote.
Burn.
You guys want to hear a fucking story?
You're the quarterback of the team. It is your job to give him those targets. Now, you can probably pass it on to offensive coordinator and say, I don't make the game plan. Well, obviously you don't, because you had to have contract clauses that say that you read it. But it is your job, man. That is what you do. I mean, you're supposed to see the deep. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're supposed to see the outline of a defense in any given game. You're supposed to, after every possession, you go back to the sideline. You say to the offensive coordinator, all right, this is what I'm seeing. This is what they're dictating. I think we can do this to counteract that. What are your thoughts? And you have this exchange. But is it one of those you just get told what to do and you just mindlessly go out there and you do your job? If so, I feel for the Cardinals. But, sir, it is your job. It's one of your primary jobs, actually, to give Marvin Harrison Jr. touches. Why? Because they drafted a high draft pick for him. They drafted a high draft pick to choose you, too. And because of that, it is your job to make those executives look good. Otherwise, you do look like you're invested in Call of Duty and not the Arizona Cardinals. Come on, Kyler. You got to do better than this, man. You played this league long enough to not go into and devolve into that type of thought process. It's not your job. Let's go commercial break. It's not your. Please, fool.
Later, the post game. But coming up next, the 2-minute drill. This is Total Football Talk. Comey Media Incorporated. Creating content magic in the real world.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D. Willie in the evening.
this Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $sign D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App and go ahead and give him some Willie the Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. Slide some Willie Bucks.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. If you want your Commanders to be repped right, well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 1:05 p.m. Eastern, 12:05 a.m. Central on the Sertoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers, right side, commanders. Where my soldiers, left side,
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I am Cole Johnson. It is now time for the 2-minute drill, where we get to break down the best of the rest. And let's get started right now. As we do so, the Thursday night tilt is where we will begin, where the Patriots and the Jets, they go play each other. The Jets have their home opener. Both teams are 1-1. Amazon Prime has the game. The kick is at 8:15 p.m. That is. Your thoughts on this game, and who do you have winning?
I think if the Jets continue putting up the offensive production that they have been, they're going to lose this game at home. However, I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to start to heat up a little bit and turn back the clock a little bit in this home game, motivated by the fact that they are at home. They're going to win this game. It's going to be a close one, but we're going to see a little bit better production out of the offense.
Yeah, I want to give it to the Patriots because I'm loving their commitment to the run, and that defense is coming after quarterbacks. But I just get the feeling that the Jets will actually play with a little more oomph than they have the previous 2 weeks. I think they'll be up for this, and it's going to be a really good game, but I have the Jets winning it. All right. Starting with the Sunday games, 1 p.m. kicks. Fox has this game. The Browns at 1-1, they host the Giants at 0-2. The Titans at I'm just joking. Who do you have in this one?
Well, basically, with your original sentiments, I'm going to go with the Browns win this one decisively at home. Giants fall to 0-3. Browns improve to 2-1. And this will not be a contest that most people who are watching will stay awake for.
Ditto on all of that. I agree with you. Goodness gracious. The Titans at 0-2. They host the Packers at 1-1. Fox has that kickoff as well at 1 p.m. Your thoughts on this one, and does Malik Willis get some revenge on the Titans?
That's what I was about to say. You beat me to it. The Malik Willis revenge game. He will help the Packers improve to 2-1. The Titans will fall to 0-3, and this will all happen in Tennessee.
That makes me happy.
I know.
and I will add, if Will Levis decides to give defenses the ball like he has the first two games, yeah, I would definitely see a victory. Yeah, I think the Packers will definitely have their way with the Titans. The Colts limping into their home game against the Bears at 0-2. CBS has this at kick at 1. They host the Bears at 1-1. Who you have in this one?
I think this will be the first of the 0-2 teams to win this weekend. The Bears, although they do have the talent to get the win here, I think the fact that they are on the road and some of the struggles that they were kind of exposed to in the previous night's game when they were playing on Sunday night are going to get exposed again in this game. The Colts are due for a win, and it's going to happen while they're at home.
And I think if they can expose that secondary, talking about the Colts, if they can expose that secondary, I think they'll have some opportunities. And if Richardson can just breathe just a little bit, because look, you already know about Montez Sweat. That dude is a beast, and he's been a beast on the Bears, and he was a beast last night too. If they can find a way to contain, I won't say stop, contain him, I agree with you. I think the Colts will end up getting a victory. I hope they don't, but I think they will. The Buccaneers, they are at 2-0. They host the Broncos at 0-2. Fox has that kick at 1 p.m. Your thoughts on this game, and who do you have as the victor?
Now, if it was the Broncos of old of the past couple seasons, I would say they would lose decisively. However, I do think they are going to lose again. They're going to fall to 0-3. The Buccaneers, just the way that they've started this year, and for the past 4 seasons, actually, they're 2-0. And for the past 4 seasons, they've started their first 2 games that way. I think they're going to improve to 3-0 in this game. Bo Nix, a rookie, has made some mistakes late in games with turning the ball over. I think this is what's going to eat them up again in this game. And it's going to be a pretty close one. It's not going to be a decisive victory for the Buccaneers, but I think that they've got the talent and the weapons around to make sure that they get to 3-0 to start the season.
I totally agree with Bo Nix, who he has shown some glimpses, but yeah, he has the penchant to just give up the ball. And the opposite, I think, helps him out too, with Baker Mayfield, for the most part, taking care of the ball. I see them going to 3-0, and I see the Broncos going to 0-3. The Raiders will go to 2-1 as they will beat up on the Panthers at 0-2. We can go over the formalities. The kickoff is at 4:05. CBS has the kick. Who do you have this game in Las Vegas between the Raiders and the Panthers?
Next! No, I'm just kidding. I'll definitely go with the Raiders, though. The human turnstiles with the Panthers, no matter if they were at home or away, it would not matter. They would give up this game then, and they're going for the number 1 overall pick again.
Yeah, and I think this will be a welcome respite for the Raiders. They had to deal with some tough battles against the Chargers and then the Ravens. This will be a cakewalk for them. CBS will also have this 4-5 kick. The Seahawks are 2-0. They host the Tua Tagovailoa less Dolphins at 1-1. Who do you have in this one?
As much as I want to take the Dolphins because the talent that they have, the Seahawks have started this out really strong, especially what they've showcased with their defense as well. I think they're going to be able to hold whoever is at quarterback, even if Tua was in this game based on the production that he was giving before he even got hurt last week. So I'm going with the Seahawks to upset, even if Tua was at quarterback at home. But at this point, it's not really as much of an upset considering who they have starting at quarterback for the Miami Dolphins.
Skylar Thompson, come on down, start again. You started a playoff game a couple of years back, and now you get to start a regular season game. Hey, I think the Seahawks will have this one as well. All right. 425 kicks, the first of 3. The Cowboys licking their wounds, 1-1 off of that L to the Saints. They host the Ravens at 0-2. I think they're frothing at the mouth. 425 again is the kick. Who do you have in this one?
As much as I want to say I can't see the Cowboys losing back-to-back home games, I also cannot see the Ravens starting this season out at 0-3.
Yeah.
I think that there's a better chance that the Ravens win this game away at Jerry World than the Cowboys have a chance to win this game. I think the Ravens win, they improved to 1-2, and then you have the Cowboys falling to 1-2 in this game. It's not going to be as much of a routing as there was from the Saints this past weekend, but no matter how close it is, the Ravens get this win, in my opinion.
Here's how crazy it is in my mind. If this game was in Baltimore, I would actually pick the Cowboys. That's how crazy it is. But since it is in Arlington, I will actually pick the Ravens because I think they're more motivated to win. And I don't think the Cowboys quite yet know the formula for this team just yet. And because of that, and they're playing against a team that when they do have it all together, they can actually steamroll you. I think that will happen. Do I think this is going to be like a 42-19 repeat? No. This is going to be a much closer game. It's going to be a competitive game. It's going to be one where Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. will actually sound competent when he's the color guy. Oh my gosh. Poor fella.
The third. The second.
That's the third.
Just to see if anybody was catching it.
That's right. I want the Burkhardt Olsen team back. Yes, I've said it and I'll keep saying it. The second of the 425 kicks, the Rams at 0-2. They are licking their wounds, but they got another team licking theirs in the 49ers, their arch rival. They are at 1-1. Who do you have in this one?
You know, they're so far removed from the type of team that they were a couple of years ago. You know, when it comes to the Rams, they're nowhere even close to what we saw when they won the Super Bowl back in 2021. So I cannot go with the Rams in this game as much as I want to for playmaker. I don't think they're tanking or anything, but at the same time, when you look at who they're going against in this game, in the 49ers, as much as the 49ers regressed in this game, I just have a bad feeling that the Rams are going to start 0-3, and I'm going to stick with it and pick the 49ers to win this game on the road.
I agree. They won't have Nakua. It's possible he may not have Kupp either. And that running game cannot be stuck in neutral like it's been the first 2 games. That is a must. If they're going to win this game, that's what's going to have to come up to the forefront. I think it won't. And I think the 49ers will, and they normally have good fortunes in SoFi. I think that continues. And here's the third of the 425 kick for Sunday. The Cardinals at 1-1. They host the Lions also at 1-1. Who do you have in this one, sir?
You know, based on what the Cardinals did this past weekend, as much as I want to pick them to win, you know, based on what they did, I just don't feel like it's the right move to make in this situation. Looking at what we saw, you know, this past weekend from both of these teams, you know, when you compare the Cardinals and you compare the Lions, you know, lost a heartbreaker to the Bucks. But it's because they didn't establish the run well enough. Wow. I think they're going to do a better job at establishing that run in this game against the Cardinals, whose run protection on their defense is not as great as the other side of the ball. So with that being said, I think the Cardinals fall in this game. It's going to be a pretty close one, but the Lions need to win this game if they want to get back on track, and I think that they're going to.
Good God, my man. I could not have said that any better if I tried. I have the Lions winning this, provided they establish the run, because I just don't think that the Cardinals have it in to stop it. And if they can, cool, but I doubt it. Oh, and Dante says, the Eagles officially offered Kenny Pickett to the Dolphins for half off Disneyland tickets. I like that one, my friend. I like that one a lot. Oh, my gosh. All right, to the Sunday night game. Sorry.
That was great, Dante.
That was great. To the Sunday night game, I know on the slide on the slate it says 4:05. It meant to be 8:20. I forgot to change it. 8:20 kick on NBC. The Falcons currently at 0-1. They haven't played their Monday night game tonight yet. They face off against the Chiefs at 2-0. Your thoughts on this game, and who do you have winning next Sunday night's game?
I'm sorry to say this, Dante, but I feel like, after a week of thinking back on it, I think that the Falcons are going to win this game tonight and go into this game 1-1 against the Chiefs. No matter if they go into the game 1-1 or they go 0-2, they're going to be facing the defending back-to-back Super Bowl champions who are going for a three-peat and just find ways to win. I think that the Chiefs are going to win this game and improve to 3-0 on the road.
Oh, man. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the Chiefs will take this game. They'll be 3-0. Yes, even without Isaiah Pacheco, the Chiefs will find a way. And I think unfortunately, the Falcons will find a way to turn the ball over in this one.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
Now, next Monday will not have one. They will have two games. Yes, the Bills coming off of the impressive performance in Hard Rock in Atlanta, in Miami, being 2-0. They host the Jaguars at 0-2. ESPN will have that kick. 7:30 p.m. is when that game will start. Who do you have in this one?
With this being a home game for the Bills and considering the way the Jaguars have played in their first two games, I will not be surprised if the Jags lose their third consecutive game. However, I just have a feeling, I can't go that way. Based on what the Bills defense has been doing, I have to go with the Bills in this one at home. They improved to 3-0. The Jags regressed to 0-3. I'm going to love every second of it because of those Duval supporters over there that need to due diligence themselves and actually look into this a little bit better. I'm going to go with the Bills in this game.
As much as I think the Jaguars are due for a bounce back, I don't think it'll be in this game either. I'm just not impressed with how they offensively are so out of sync. And Dante was talking about how he was a bit surprised as to how Doug Peterson doesn't have this team and their ship righted. And I think that ship will not be righted come next Monday. The Bills, I think they'll go to 3-0 as well. And the last game of the week, which also will be on Monday night, ABC and ESPN Plus will carry this one. The Bengals at 0-2. They will host your Commanders at 1-1. Kickoffs at 8:15. Your thoughts on this game, and who do you have winning it?
As much as I want to go with my team, I just can't, with it being in Cincinnati and thinking about the production that the Bengals have been able to give on offense as to where the Commanders are still figuring out. I mean, they had to rely on their kicker to get them 7 field goals, which doesn't happen often in order to win the game. And there were a lot of questions at who was even going to kick the ball for them midweek of the week prior. So they lucked into that situation. But luck will only take you so far as to where the Bengals have been building this team for the past few years. The Commanders are only really 1 year into building what they see for the future. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I don't think it's going to be a disrespectful showing, of any fashion. But I do feel like the Bengals at home have the advantage, especially with how close the game was last week, in the fact that they are they are on paper 0-2, and the Commanders have a better record at 1-1. I think they're going to balance it out with the Bengals getting to 1-2, and the Commanders falling to 1-2 in this game. I've got the Bengals winning at home.
I agree with your assessment, and but I do, like I said to you about the Buccaneers. I think you're starting to feel that energy of. Yeah, it would be great if the Commanders can win or lose games, but might have to take moral victories here. Meaning, in this case, the moral victory is how has Jaden Daniels progressed? Now we'll get a chance to see how far he's progressed in his third ever NFL start, this first National Football League spotlight start. I do think the Bengals will have this game in hand. I do not think it's going to be a blowout either, because I see the Bengals having issues too, and it's going to get in the way in this game. But they'll find a way to win, because I think they feel as though they let yesterday's game slip away from their hands, and I think unfortunately the Commanders are going to pay for it, but they won't be blown out. It will be a W for the Bengals, and both teams will go to 1-2. Well, that is our pick for the 2-minute drill. Again, what is yours? You can type your answer in the chat or in the description box below the description box as to who you have winning Week 3 games.
Total Football Talk.
As long as it's one. That's great. I love it.
And now we've come to the part of the program where it is the post game. This is where we give off our final thoughts for the week that was, and maybe even thoughts to the week that is to come. And for his post game thoughts, I turn the floor over to Drew.
Well, thank you, sir. Episode 55 is now in the books of Total Football Talk. This has, definitely been a great start to the season. We've gone through now 2 weeks of the NFL season, and we still have a whole lot more left. We still got some things that teams need to prove in order for us to really, truly buy into what they're selling us. But the teams that I can at least say in this moment have got me sold on their production so far. One of them, like I've been saying since mid last year, the Houston Texans, my guy Cole's team. I've been throwing as much praise as I can, because for so long we were talking about them in a different light, and it's nice to be able to have these type of discussions about a team who we've seen at the bottom of the barrel of the league now be considered in the top 10, and in a lot of cases in the top 5. And when it comes to their defense, I believe they're in the top 3, at least, if not closer on up to the top, because you see what the production that they did with the 7 sacks in this past week's game. I can't speak highly enough of it, and I'll continue to do so until they prove me otherwise. I mean, man, absolutely great. Looking at things overall when it comes to football, I can only give so much of an analysis when it comes to how I feel like things are going to fare for them by the end of this year, because 2 weeks in, you can only really go off what you're seeing in the moment. I think we're going to need another 3 to 4 weeks for us to really form a true opinion of what we think these teams are going to do later in the year, potential runs they can go on. It's real early. I think what we can at least establish is the fact the Panthers are going nowhere. Okay. They are going nowhere. The Giants are going nowhere. Okay. Those 2 teams you can definitely throw out of it. The Broncos as well. I mean, these are 3 teams that we can say right. Oh, and the Tennessee Titans, of course, because they are terrible every year. So we got 28 other teams that are still in it. Okay. But when it comes to that, overall, I'm really excited. I mean, we've been clamoring for NFL action for several months. We finally got it. We're finally a couple weeks into this, and I look forward to the remainder of this season that we have in front of us, and to cover it with my man Kyle on our show, Total Football Talk. Make sure you guys tune in on Friday about 5:00 p.m. Eastern time for Total Football Talk Extra. We'll be covering CFL this week as well. So a lot of football to discuss, a lot of football to be seen on many levels, no matter what you're watching and how you're watching it. And look forward to getting up with you guys again this Friday when it comes to Total Football Talk action.
Well said. I like that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And I 100% agree with you. And thank you for the kind words about the Texans. You're right. I'm glad that they're on this side, because I had enough of them on the other, because it was just looking horrible for many years. But you can relate because, well, you've had the similar issues with the Commanders. So I'm praying the same turnaround happens for you, man, because you're gonna enjoy it when it does. Ooh, man.
Even though it's based on special teams, I'm happy just to see them get the win in the fashion that they did this past week. Even though it's against a dumpster Pelican team of the Giants, a win is a win.
Yeah, a win is a win. You're right about that. I had a chance to speak about this on the morning shift, but I'm glad I didn't speak on it there the way I'm going to speak on it here. This message goes to Tua Tagovailoa and his family, not just his own immediate family, but his brothers, his mother, his father. Tua, I love you. You're a wonderful man. There is so many great things that you have done just in the short amount of time you've been on this planet. You, my friend, can contribute a lot to the game of football. Who can have a story of how you were considered a non-starter literally, and people didn't even know how to pronounce your last name, yet you were able to step onto the field and win a national championship for Alabama. You have that story to tell. You have the story of how it felt to be coached under Nick Saban. You have the story of how it felt to be coached under Brian Flores, who obviously you have no respect for. And now you have the feeling of how it is to be coached under a guy in Mike McDaniels, where you feel as though you can be yourself and you can do the best that you can do and be the best person you can be. But it's time for you to give this game up as a player. I'm sorry, my friend. 3 major concussions, but I say 4. 4 concussions in 2 years. And oh, by the way, you suffered on also back in your Alabama days, actually the year before you got drafted. So 5 concussions in 5 years. And earlier in this episode, my partner talked about how it's affected your decision making. He didn't go outward and say it, but I will go out and say it, not for him, but for you to hear. I think the concussions that you suffered, the 3 that you did in 2022, it has affected your mental acuity without having concussions going.
Yes.
And because of that, coupled with the fact that it only took that impact of a blow, which did not hurt much, which and with a normal action would probably be just okay, you barreled your shoulder or you buried your head into a defender's chest, you got the extra yards, you motivated your team because they needed the spark because they were down 3 touchdowns. Part of it was your fault, obviously, but you wanted to provide the spark. You provided that spark. Unfortunately, though, your mental acuity left you again, because instead of being taught, practicing what you've been taught, because I know you've been taught that you need to slide, you decided to barrel head first. And it may cost you your career. Because I know neurosurgeons will probably be more reticent to say, yeah, this guy's ready to go back, before your way of life is completely destroyed. Or, God forbid, before you become destroyed and you can't even participate in being a member of life. Forget a football player, life. Enjoy your children, enjoy your wife, and enjoy your life, and find a way to be part of football as a coach, as a consultant, something. But you don't have to be a part of it as a player anymore. Your head just can't take it any longer. And it's not that I have an axe to grind. It's not that I hate you. No, I'm saying this out of love, Tua. Your time as a football player is over. Because you don't even have to have a collision that hard, and it was even hard, against the chest of Damar Hamlin to actually have you be rendered null and void yet again. So for your safety and for the sanity of your wife and your children, please bow out.
As long as it's one. Oh, it's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it.
Oh, any thoughts that you have, sir, before we do let the Total Football Talk tribe go?
It was one fantastic take on Tua, my man.
Thank you.
I wanted, at first I wanted to make him my snowflake of the week, but I just didn't feel like it would be in good taste with doing it that way.
I'm glad you didn't.
Because, that's why I said based on the result of decisions he's made when we were reviewing that game, it shows that he's a little inept. And I think it's a result of those shots. Doesn't mean he's stupid or anything. No. It just means that he's inept as a result of the shots that he's taken to his dome piece. So looking at that, you put all of that in a beautiful context that it is time to really start thinking about your future. And, there's doctors on the internet that are saying that the way that he's, reacting to these concussions at this point, the next one could very well paralyze him or kill him. So, thinking about all that and thinking about the future outside of football, you've already made millions of dollars, even at this point at 25. Of course, you're just now starting to get into the money that you signed for, but you're still pretty set. You make the right business decisions, you get into coaching, you'll still make a decent amount of money. There's options for you out there, and you're only 25 years old. So couldn't have said it any better than what you just did, but hopefully he'll make the right decision, and we'll be talking about it in the near future. Hopefully that he made that right decision.
Yeah. But all that being said, our prayers are with you and your family, Tua. If we don't want to see anybody, especially in this game that we all love, suffer the way you have. Oh, man. But if you want to reach my brother Drew, all you have to do is go onto these wonderful social media platforms he has. Sirtober_media on Instagram, Sirtober_media on Twitter or X, the underscore Sirtoba on TikTok, and of course, Sirtoba Media on YouTube.
Go to work.
If you want to reach me, all you have to do is go to flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. That is flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. Well, we thank you guys for liking. We thank you for sharing. We thank you for subscribing. We thank you for the wonderful comments on this episode and the episodes that has been in the past as well. And we thank you for hitting the notification bell so you can catch all the content that comes from the Sirtoba Media YouTube channel and the Coleman Media YouTube channel. We appreciate all of you. For Drew Winningham, I'm Cole Johnson, here to say in parting, as we always do, in life, just like a tackle, keep your head up. And as always, you got to play until the whistle blows.
And as always, stay safe out here in these streets. Kenny Pickett for half off Disneyland tickets. I'd say that's one hell of a deal.